was.
Your dose is like reasonable of HRT, so it would be odd for your red blood cell count, hematocrit to be like disproportionately high, I feel like.
You know, it's funny. It took me a while to figure out, but I think the Ecopoi was one of the big contributors to my heart attack. That and the sleep apnea.
Yeah, so I read that in the book, and that's a big point because everyone thinks, they're like, oh, he was underslept, Viagra, cocaine, all that kind of stuff. They don't realize, like, EQ's a fucking shit compound in my opinion too. Like, it's so dramatic on the hematology.
Yeah, it's funny, man. That was like what I was doing in buds, that and, you know, a small amount of tests.
But it's because that, like, access more than anything. Because it's not like now, if you have like a Bitcoin, just go on the internet and buy whatever the fuck you want. Back then, it was a bit more difficult to.
Dude, and just like there was no fucking internet. Like, that's something that a lot of people like don't realize how big of a deal that is.
It's so easy nowadays getting gear.
It's fucking crazy, man. Back then, it was just, you had no idea.
No. Yeah, back then it was you either knew a guy or you had to like fucking go over the border or whatever.
I think I had that book, so it was like Anabolics 2000 or something.
Llewellyn?
Yeah.
It's been updated like 7,000 times since then.
It's been what?
It's been updated like
okay.
7,000, but like probably like 30 times.
Yeah.
So it's like, what edition do you have? And it's like 1 to like 30. That was ahead of its time for sure, but now some of that stuff is like a little bit outdated. And like some of the stuff I have no idea. I found out after digging into research, he just like made some of the shit up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like EQ, he says it converts at like half the rate of testosterone to estrogen, like all this weird stuff that just like made no sense when I actually like dug into blood work. Yeah, that compound's brutal, dude, for like sludge blood, literally.
Yeah, and I think that's what fucked me, man.
Yeah, and the unaddressed sleep apnea too. Like, you're probably walking around with a super thick neck your entire life, and who told you, like a chick in your sleep, that you just were choking, or how'd you figure it out?
Well, I would like, it was massages too. Like, when I would be getting massages, I would just like wake up and like just need to breathe, you know?
Gasping.
Yeah.
Dude, before I got mine addressed, I would just like wake up in the middle of the night, literally on the brink of passing out. And I wore a pulse oximeter to actually diagnose it, and it would show I would like dip below 95 so many times to the point where I'm just like killing brain cells all night.
Well, 95 is not that bad. Your SpO2.
Or what was it? It was like, there's some, I think it was 90 where you start killing brain cells. I forget what it is.
Really? Because I'm at sleep, I'm like under 90. Like,
do you CPAP?
I tried like the thing. It's like, dude, I felt like I had a fucking leaf blower, like blowing air into my mouth. Like, I just could not sleep, even on the lowest setting. I just
whatever the threshold, because it's been a while since I've used that thing, but I was like 20 when I first got it diagnosed. But I just remember it was measuring apnea episodes per hour, and it was significant to the point where I was pretty much, I would stop breathing for 1 to 2 minutes, breathe, stop breathing for 1 to 2 minutes all night. Yeah.
Damn, 1 to 2 minutes is a long fucking time. So I mean, you're basically like doing like breath holding.
Yeah. I recorded an audio of myself when I just wanted to see how bad it really was. And it was fucking terrifying to hear yourself like that. Yeah. And it's like, if you're single or a girl just thinks you're annoying, this guy snores way too much. I'm just going to, go in another room or just deal with it, because I'm not going to like tell him he's annoying because I want to, keep him around. You just go years without knowing, and you just like slowly killing yourself.
I think that was one of the reasons I like never wanted chicks to sleep in my bed. Is I had such a fucking hard time sleeping that like I didn't want to be woken up, or some girl fucking wake you up because I'm snoring. I'd literally go fucking nuts if they did that, because I have such a fucking bitch of a time getting a good night's sleep.
Let me just double check this thing is recording our voices to the.
Is that good, or am I like a decent length from this mic, or?
I think it's, that's why I'm double checking. Let's see. I'm kind of like new to, like, I don't actually do podcasts with anyone ever, so when you were like, you want to come over, I was like, fuck yeah, but let me go buy a bunch of shit that I don't know how to use.
Yeah, I noticed in your channel there was like no podcast. No. I felt like
if somebody, a big guest wants to collaborate, I'll do it, but usually I'm in Canada, so I just do it over webcam or whatever. Yep. But it was just like fortuitous timing, I just happened to be here anyway, so.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I didn't really know much about you. I had seen some of your stuff, and then I saw you read my book, or part of it, or whatever. And then I watched, it was like you and, two meathead guys or something. Something Mog.
Oh, yeah, Mogcast.
Yeah.
After Rogan, I went to two of my top ambassadors for my supplement company. They've wanted me to go do their podcast forever. And I told them if I'm ever in Texas, sure. And I just, never thought I would be.
Yeah.
And I'd want to do it. It's not like I wouldn't want to do it. And I just happened to be there. I was like, fuck, I should make the trek over. And they're like 22 and 21, but that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about is guys getting ridiculous amounts of success at like an early age. So these kids, our company is very sort of like under the radar with how successful it is. And these kids, like they'll earn like 50, 60 grand a month right now, just off commissions off one company. And then they have other stuff too that they're doing. And like back when I was 21, 22, I was like bouncing. I was like working at a golf course, lifeguarding, like barely, like, I don't know, 15 to 20 bucks an hour kind of thing.
I was in the military. I mean, as you read in the book, I tried to save $150 by sticking roids up my asshole.
Yeah. Like when I would go on a date or something, it would be like one drink maximum, because I like as cost efficient as possible to get the job done sort of thing, and still make it seem like I can afford to like go out of the house.
That's funny,
and
man.
For them, I'm just seeing their minds being warped at like a hyper accelerated rate, and I'm just like, I try to check them on it, and I don't know, it's just like, how do you, like, obviously your accelerated success is already dramatic, but this is like, I don't know how to predict what kind of level they'll get to, but just the level they've reached relative to everyone else their age, it's like borderline pseudo celebrity sort of status.
Yeah.
And the amount of money is like probably more than a lot of celebrities are making at their age, frankly. So it's like, how do you like keep your brain in check? Because it's hard to not get like desensitized to stuff.
For sure, man. Like a lot of people talk shit about Jake Paul, and I remind them, I'm like, this kid was like famous super early on, and he's got money at such an early age. It's just like, it's hard for it not to fuck you up. It's kind of like a kid, right? Like if you give a kid everything that he wants when he's young, then it's going to fuck up like his perception. He's going to be a spoiled brat. He's not going to appreciate everything. He's just got everything handed to him. And so it's hard. It's hard to balance that. And with fame, everybody's kind of kissing your ass. And you get rewarded for doing dumb shit, right? Because like a lot of times with fame, your biggest blow-ups and your biggest strides in your following or your notoriety or whatever is when you actually do bad shit for the most part. I say a lot of times, like, you save 500 whales, nobody gives a shit, but if you fucking kill one, it's like, worldwide news. Yeah. And so it, creates this thing where it's almost like I said, rewarding bad behavior. Like these rock stars, they'll fucking roast a goat in the room. They'll throw a goddamn TV out the window. They'll trash the place. And like, people are like, oh, that's awesome. So it's like, as a young kid, when you get that like, like positive reinforcement on negative behavior, it's hard for that not to fuck you up. That, and plus, it just like the way people react to you. I mean, fame is a weird thing, man. So yeah, when you get it young, it's tough. It's tough for that not to fuck you up, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I don't even know what to tell them half the time, because it's just like, for example, the top performer of our company, he went to buy a Lambo the other day, and like that's a year and a half ago. He wasn't even on the internet, so it's kind of ridiculous. And he was telling me how when he was going to get it, he didn't know why, but he felt depressed. And I was like, can you imagine a year and a half ago telling yourself you don't even have a presence online at all? Now you're like in the fitness industry, it's like a smaller scale niche. So he's like famous in the fitness industry, but that's like still significant for a 21-year-old, and then making so much money that you can just toss some cash at a Urus and still, not be worried about paying your rent or doing whatever, and you're depressed. Like, would you ever believe that? And it's just like,
yeah, that's definitely sounds fucking crazy. I do like the depression thing with the success does resonate a little bit with me in the sense that a lot of times when I would accomplish something, like when I made it through Hell Week, I was kind of like depressed. Like a lot of times, like when I would get to a big milestone, I don't know, maybe it was because I built it up so much in my mind and then it wasn't as fucking amazing in real life or whatever it was. But I definitely felt that a lot of times because I think a lot of times climbing the mountain is more satisfying than like being on the top.
And it's hard to check yourself though while you're climbing the mountain, because you're like, a lot of times you're aware of it because there's people like you who've like come out in your book and just even before in interviews and whatnot saying that was the mistake you made, and if you would smell the roses if you could, sort of thing. And even when you're like aware of that though, it's really hard to make yourself do it.
It is, man, because you're like so fucking focused on what you want to accomplish that you're just whatever it takes to get there. And yeah, I found if you just stop and kind of like, not even stop so much, just like pause for a minute and just kind of like recognize where you are, then when you get higher and higher, you're going to appreciate that perspective wise. I just think there's this so much power in perspective that I think people don't realize, and I'm starting to realize it later. But that's why I think hopefully I have like a big exit with Ignite, and then I can go work at Walmart for like 3 months and just fully reset.
Yeah.
And, you know, just kind of like, I just never forget, like when I got out of boot camp, man, like every little fucking thing made me happy.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you're just numb to a lot of shit. So it'd be interesting. I mean, I think it's going to work. I haven't fucking done it, but we'll see, you know?
So what are you going to do? Like shave fully and like get a disguise, or?
I think I'd have to. Yeah. Otherwise it'd just be like too harassing, you know?
What's that show? It's like Undercover Millionaire or something. Have you ever seen it?
I've heard of it. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, where they like basically get a disguise, no money.
Yeah. They like go work at like the bottom of the barrel of their own company though. Like I guess I don't think they go work for another company, but it's kind of like they go to see what it's like in the trenches or something, and then they usually learn quite a bit of interesting shit because they have people reacting to them in an unbiased way that you're probably totally desensitized to now if they don't know who you are, sort of thing. It's like, oh shit, this is like what normal people talk like now. Like you sort of like forget, I feel like.
No, you don't have those interactions. Like you just kind of like robbed of it a little bit. And yeah, it's weird when you're in a, you know, high position or whatever, like people don't bust your balls as much. You don't have, like when people come up to you that don't know you, they're nervous. There's like this whole weird thing, and you just don't have like those natural interactions like you had, you know, when I was in the military or college or whatever. And so, yeah, it'd be interesting to see that. Like I talked about this, I think on Logan's podcast, where Mel Gibson will put on a movie quality mask and he'll just like go out and have, you know, normal interactions.
No, yeah, it feels like that might be the move. Like, do you think you would do that in hindsight after every big milestone in the past, sort of just do like a reset and do something that like checks your brain, like resets it to baseline with?
I should have. Like my buddy Bill wanted to bet me like $1 million. I couldn't work as a valet for a month, and I should have done that. I didn't do it. It was like
$1 million
bucks?
bucks?
Yeah, it was like summertime here. It's like 120 something fucking degrees, and like the World Series is going on. There's like all this money to be made. So it probably would have cost me money, but I think it would have been really good to do.
So like when you guys bet each other ridiculous, exorbitant amounts, and you have to, money's moving back and forth, and we all know how the IRS is with, even if you trade a used car, you have to pay the fucking tax, and then it trades again. There's another tax on the same car that's already been bought.
Yeah.
Like, how's it work with gambling? Do you have to?
No, that's a great question. That actually,
because a lot of it is cash, especially the games you play. It's a bit different than in a casino, probably, where it's like on record or something.
Well, casinos, like, you know, chips, it actually used to be where you could go in there with literal like bricks of cash. I remember we'd be playing and people would like chuck in a fucking $100,000 brick of cash, and it was like your asshole would just pucker up, you know. So you didn't know if they were doing that to like bluff or to like be perceived as bluffing, you know. So there was like that whole meta to consider. But anyways, yeah, when you're in a casino, it's chips, it's cash, it's going back and forth. Whereas when you're playing the private games, it's a fucking wire going from bank to bank. And, you know, that fucked up like Beal and Alec Gore. Well, I guess it didn't fuck them up. They're both billionaires. But like, I think Andy Beal lost $700 million that in 1 year, wired it to Alec. Alec then had to pay the taxes, which was like 50-something% in Cali. So the government gets half. Let's just call it half. So 350 here, 350 there. Then the next year, I think Alec loses back like some of the money, like more than 350. So basically, like they
do you get to
lost.
and do you get to write that off when you lose money
No,
gambling?
there's no carry back, carry forward.
That's
like
horrible.
within that year, yes, but like not after.
Yeah.
Unless like even if you're a professional gambler, I don't think. And so yeah, the government was the only winner in that match. It was like super. I mean, like how can you fade that 50%? It's like basically paying 50% juice. It's so like it's brutal.
What if you like set up a C corp that represents you as like a gambler? Does that even make sense?
No, it does make sense. I just don't think they allow it. Like they have very specific guidelines as to like carry back, carry forward on gambling losses, and like only if you're an actual gambler can you even write off losses. So it's like, it's kind of a fucking shitty deal.
Do you see some of the big name guys that play the private games going to like crypto now to avoid that shit?
They're all in crypto. Yeah. So
I would think that would be the ideal way to go about it.
Well, and,
hypothetically, if you were, trying to skirt the fucking system.
well, just paying, man, like it's like instantaneous, like they get the fucking money, the money's there. There's no like possible clawbacks. You don't have to wait. I mean, it's just instant settle ups. So yeah, the whole gambling community's gone to crypto just for a slew of reasons, not to mention that like pretty much everybody in the gambling community has known about Bitcoin too since like 2013, 14. Like,
yeah.
So I was getting paid in Bitcoin. I mentioned that in the book in like 2013 or 14. That was like the best way that was pretty much like the only way to get it out of Macau.
Yeah.
So a lot of the gambling community probably got more rich off the crypto than the fucking gambling, to be honest.
Do you regret cashing out at 16 or whatever it was?
No, because then it fucking like crashed to 3,000, and so I was like thinking what a fucking genius I was. And then I kind of bought back like on the way up. I think I bought again at like 11, then I got back in. But yeah, man, it was crazy. I mean, I was just like stoked to make all that money. And
now, was it just a hunch, or was it like you have like people analyzing shit and they suggested you do it, or how'd you figure on cashing out?
It was one sentence from my buddy Bill Perkins. He said. He was trying to sell to me, and I was just like, just hold it, you fucking pussy, blah, blah. Like, he's got all this goddamn money. Like, what the fuck? He's like panicking, like trying to sell this shit. I'm like, just fucking hold it. He goes, well, then you buy it. I'm like, I got a fucking enough. I don't want it anymore. He's like, if you're not a buyer, you should be at 17.5 or whatever the fuck it was. He goes, you should be a seller. And I'm like, fuck, like the guy's got a point. Like if you don't think it's smart to buy at that price, then by default, you probably should be selling at that price, right? Because like, it's either a good investment or it's not. This whole like, oh, we're just going to like hang on for dear life forever. Yeah. It's kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I think if you don't crypto is kind of like defied all odds. And I think it's actually going to win long term. It's one of the few things. But with investments, I mean, you're never going to like usually cash out at the peak. And so you don't want to like constantly be looking back. So you kind of just got to like set like goals. Like, okay, if I 5X, I'm happy, like maybe I could have 10X, but I'm like happy with the 5. I pull out whatever. Yeah. And I don't know. For some reason, when it was like at 17, I was like, I think it's more likely for it to have a pullback than for it to go to like 40, So like I thought it was more likely for it to like halve or quarter than it was to like double or triple, because the market cap would have to expand so much at that point that I don't know.
I always find it funny listening to people try to explain to me what I should or shouldn't be doing with crypto, though, because it's like no one really knows, I feel like. So they're like, oh, this shit coin, like you should have got in on this. Or like people literally make coins called like fucking poo coin now. It's insane. And it's like, and I see people doing well. And I'm just like, I hate the fact that that's even a way to generate wealth. Like I feel like I need to be involved, but it literally bothers me.
No, I'm with you, man. Like this whole like DeFi, like shitcoin space is a crazy thing. And it's like the definition of a Ponzi scheme, and it's like it works. Like if everybody keeps fucking piling in money, like it works. Like and a lot of this is like MLM style stuff, where like these guys get in, then they get their friends in, and this whole thing. They have these chat groups, and so I get it. I don't believe in that sort of thing long term, but there's a lot of guys making a lot of fucking money doing it, and there's so many people making money doing it that they have funds for this DeFi where they'll basically just like buy any new coin that comes out. And it's like such a low valuation, and when all these people pile in, it's got no choice but to go up. And it's this whole thing, man. I don't know. It's kind of a crazy, like Bitcoin. I remember that came out. Like it made sense, right? Yeah. Like banks are a pain in the fucking ass. Wires take days. There's clawbacks. There's fraud. There's all this stuff. With Bitcoin, it's like boom, it's done. Like, and you can travel with it too. Like you could have $1 billion in your pocket and come in and out of the country and not get fucked with. And for a gambler, that's a big deal, because we used to like travel with Bellagio chips. That was kind of like the international standard. Yeah. The 5K Bellagio chips were like accepted everywhere. And then, crypto came along and it, kind of just replaced that. Because I remember like that was one of the reasons why you had to have a good reputation in poker. Is like I'd be in, I don't know, like fucking either Macau or you'd be in Monaco or whatever, and they just didn't have access to money. I remember some guy, just because I had a good reputation, literally loaned me $3 million. Never met me before, not a fucking IOU, nothing. Like just $3 million he gave me. And so, it was a crazy thing, but that was like, your reputation was so important, and now it's just, crypto, boom, 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 transfers, no problem.
Yeah, so I've been like highly considering hiring a shitcoin portfolio manager and just like, here's some money and like watch Reddit and all the Twitter stuff and just jump into stuff where it makes sense and get out where it makes sense. But
it's like, how many times you got to hear about somebody making 1,000 times their money? You know what I mean? Or like 1,000%. Or it's like, fuck, man. I know. I was like you. I was like, God damn, this like can't continue, and it just like keeps continuing. You know?
Yeah, and you almost feel stupid for having to involve yourself in it because it's like I know how to actually generate wealth with products that provide value to people rather than poo coins that just like inflate for zero logical reason whatsoever. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't like having to like wrap my head around putting money into it.
Bro, my fucking cameraman has made like $25 million this year doing that shit. I'm just like, wait, what the fuck is going on? Like literally, I used to pay this guy like $5,000 a video, and he's like made $25 million this year. It's like so crazy.
Is it easy to cash out of that stuff though? Is what I wonder.
It depends. Like, so there's so many different things to it. Like some of them have marketing wallets, and they'll get a piece of the marketing wallet. Yeah. And what that does is it just spits out Ethereum. So they just get Ethereum, and Ethereum is, you know, one of the most stable coins out there. It's like number 2 coin to Bitcoin. Yeah. And so, yeah, they get, I mean, that's pretty much just the same as getting cash. So they get like a percentage of everybody. So the way a lot of these new coins are is 10% of the sale, like 5% goes back into the marketing wallet, 5% goes back to like everybody that's holding, or however they want to split it up. But you basically just get like paid to hold these coins. And then every time you sell, you got to pay a little bit of juice. And like I said, some of that goes to the marketing wallet. So people that have a piece of the marketing wallet, they're just like making money every day, you know? And so there's ways to do it actually like risk-free. And then some of these guys, they get in like, you know, in the early stage where the coin is, you know, like 0.000001 cent or whatever, right? So they've got a lot of room to grow. I don't know, man. It's a fucking crazy space. Nobody wants to work anymore. Yeah. Everybody's lazy. So it's like, here's this new like gold rush, and everybody's just going in. And because everybody's going in, it works. You know, it's like when everybody pulls out, like somebody's going to be fucking standing there, you know, like without a fucking chair. But I don't know.
What do you think of all the, like, I guess you probably know some of them personally. You probably have better insider info than I do. All these like NFTs getting hyped up by people who probably wouldn't be holding it otherwise if they didn't have the opportunity to tweet about it, make a video about it, be like, oh, I'm so into this project, it's the next best thing, and then it blows up because a bunch of their followers get in. It's a very similar concept, right? It's like if everybody wants, you know, there's the scarcity and there's like a huge ethical dilemma around that where if you're willing to compromise your like followers essentially and be like, I'm gonna pull the rug out from you fuckers.
Yeah, I won't do it. Like I got offered $3 million to promote a coin. I got offered $2 million to promote an NFT. Like it's fucking real money, dude.
I'm shocked how many people who are rich already and have big social media followings that otherwise could compromise their integrity that they built up for years are willing to do it for like $1 million or something.
You know, I think a lot of people have very short memories, number one. Number two, I think some of these like do well. You know, like some of these NFTs like continue to do well. They're not all rug pulls. Like, you know, I bought a CryptoPunk when I was in Amalfi, like, I don't know, man, 5-6 months ago for like 80-90K. It's worth like 500 now, you know, like, just, and I'm just like,
it makes me wonder if guys like Gary Vee and like FaZe Banks and shit weren't always talking about it though, if it still would be.
No, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's so much of this is hype driven, you know, and if people keep talking about it, people keep making money and they tell their friends, and it's, you know, it's a thing, man. Like, so, but, you know, it's no different than art, you know, like a Jackson Pollock. I see a fucking painting where it looks like, you know, I could have fucking like splattered paint on the fucking wall, right? It's $100 million. It's like, but it's $100 million because a bunch of motherfuckers want it, right? So it's kind of a similar thing, like with art, right? Like, you know, what makes something worth this? It's literally demand and supply, right? So the NFT space is no different. The difference between the NFT space and actual physical art is that, you know, you can go mint 10,000 things, you know, and pay some fucking guy in India to, you know, just make these little JPEGs. Yeah. And now it's just like you literally, it didn't cost you anything. You know, you basically like made it for free. And so...
Did you see Logan Paul's like zoo thing or whatever, the zoo NFT?
I've seen him do a lot of NFT stuff. I don't remember the zoo one.
I won't ask for your personal opinion on it if you haven't seen it, but it's like basically whoever was in charge of it went on Shutterstock and like took a bunch of images of animals, like not their own, but just like random images, and paid the licensing fee, and then would like fuse like a fucking elephant to like a sloth or something, and then they'd call it like Swellifit and then sell it for like thousands of dollars as an NFT.
I mean, dude, listen, nothing can be fucking more stupid than the rocks. The rocks are literally pictures of a fucking rock going for like $500,000.
Oh, yeah, those ones.
Like some little kid just like took pictures of a rock and like, boom, like $500,000. And it's like, I don't know, man, because it was like the OG NFT. That was like one of the first ones. And then I got a CryptoPunk. That was like one of the original ones too.
Do you still have it?
I do, yeah.
Oh,
I got
nice.
like bought one that looked like me or something. I don't know, just for the fuck of it. I don't know. My buddy Bill was like buying all these goddamn things. He's like, you should get one. I'm like, okay, fine, dude. Like, whatever, get me one.
Do you know anyone who actually has like from what I understand, the eventual idea would be to have some sort of a way to display it in your home as if it's artwork down the line. So do you know anyone that has like a fucking like TV that just has all their rocks flowing through the screen and shit?
I don't, man, but I'm sure there are
like
people that do
imagine
that.
having a party and being like,
yeah, check out my rock, dude.
yeah.
It's a crazy thing. I got a buddy that has like a $90 million CryptoPunk or some shit. It's like an alien, you know, there's only like 7 or 8 of them. And he's like so proud of this thing. And he paid like $8 million for it like a while ago. And now he's saying it's like worth like 78. The whole thing seems crazy to me, dude. I don't know. Fuck, man.
No, yeah. It almost makes me feel very, not just ignorant, but like, I don't know, like an old, you know, just like an old man who doesn't want to accept shit. Like, oh, the kids and like their stupid, you know, internet stuff. But it's like, this is what's working. So
I know, man. I'm torn too. I'm like in the exact same boat as you, except for like I've been in this for a long time, just in a little different, right? Because the Bitcoin to me was different. The Bitcoin, the Monero, the Ethereum, like there was like a real function and use
like
for it.
Monero,
you know?
for me, I remember it was like the only coin that you could use on like the dark web or
Yeah,
something.
nobody could trace it.
I was like, well, obviously that's gonna be worth something.
Yeah.
You know? So I bought a bunch of that, I don't know, in like 2016 or something. Litecoin I got just because it was supposed to be like the lower fee, faster version of Bitcoin or whatever at the time.
Yep.
Not a lot of research went into my thought process, but it was kind of just like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, some Monero. I got a few like random ones. Like there was like a token that Chris, who you talked to on the phone with me briefly, he told me to get into basic attention token. It was like this hedge against censorship at the time because it was like I still actually get paid in basic attention token sometimes for like my YouTube videos, but I don't know, just like shit that sort of made sense, but now it's just like nonsensical.
Yeah, man. I mean, everybody's a fucking genius when it works out, you know, and then you feel like an idiot when it doesn't. It's one of those things where, you know, we don't have a crystal ball, but it's crazy, man. I've seen some of my friends that are like fucking locked into this. Like they are like diehard. Like my buddy Bob, for instance, fucking guy's worth like 800-900 million right now. And like, I remember he had like 95% of his net worth in Bitcoin, like fucking all in. And I'm not talking about like a small amount, dude. Like this is like, guy had like hundreds of millions of dollars in it. And I'm like, bro, like take out $100 million bucks, like gamble with like whatever, but like have $100 million, like save something where it's like you're good, you know? Because like the difference, I don't know. He always wanted to buy a basketball team, like that was like his big fucking dream, which seemed fucking nuts to me. But like for me, like you know, I'm like I look at things like the difference between having 100 million and a billion is not that. I mean, there's some nice things. Don't get me wrong. Like you could have the yacht, you could have a few more houses. Like you could kind of like never spend the money. Like don't get me wrong. There's benefits. Like I'm chasing the billion like everybody else, right? But the difference between having 100 million and having fucking zero, that's a lot bigger, right? Like we're talking here, and then to the billion is like here, right? So
and the amount of effort you take to go from 100 to 1 billion.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know, we have, you know, an example I like to use in gambling is like, you know, if you have a $100 million net worth and somebody offers you 10 to 1 on a coin flip, like, do you take it? And to me, it's like, I'm never taking the flip, you know, because to me, it's like having 100 million, like I can make that worth more. Like it's enough to be okay. You know, having zero is fucking really shitty, you know? So it's like, but you have to look at that. Like, you know, my buddy Bill, for instance, he was worth like 400 or 500 million at one point. I'm like, dude, lower your risk profile. Like stop fucking gambling with so much money, because he was like all in on like this natural gas stuff and whatever. And I'm like, dude, just lower your risk profile. You've got enough money. Like I get it, you want the big yacht and whatever, and so but like you can gamble like the 300 million for that and keep 2 or whatever, right? Just like lower your risk profile. And he fucking lost like 350 million of the 500, and I'm just like, dude, now you're like in a different spot, you know? And like the difference between the 500 and like getting to 800 or billion, it's like it's not that much of a difference in your lifestyle, but now it's like you have to recalibrate a little bit. So to me, it's like the more money you have, to me, I think the more risk averse you should be. Like when you have a smaller net worth, like take the fucking shots, man. Take the gambles. Because if you go broke, it's like, okay, it's not that big of a drop from where you were.
Yeah.
Like once you get like past the 50, 100, $200 million mark, it's like, don't go broke. Like you could take some risk, but like don't ever put yourself in a spot where you can go broke. And so I don't know, man, but it worked out for fucking Bob. Like the guy, you know, just fucking held like, and he rode that goddamn Bitcoin all the way down to like 3,000, sold his fucking house for like 17 million, bought more Bitcoin, sold his plane, bought more Bitcoin. And the fucking thing went back up, you know. Now the guy's like almost at $1 billion, you know. It's like, so you
can still say it was dumb, but it was just like it worked out.
It worked out.
Yeah.
To me, I think it's still dumb. Like
No,
I don't
yeah.
care. That's one thing in gambling is like you just try not to be results oriented, right?
Yeah.
Just because you won, like sticking your money in with like 5-7 offsuit against aces doesn't mean it was the right play.
Yeah.
You know, like it worked. You got the fucking money. Just like, you know, if you fucking got away with murder, it doesn't mean it was like the right move.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. No, it's like Chris. Do you know what Kratom is?
I have heard of that.
Okay, so
Sounds familiar.
He was like one of the first on the scene with like a big Kratom company in the U.S. and he accepts a lot of crypto as a form of payment. So he basically would dollar cost average into crypto just by nature of his business model. So over the years, he's accumulated like a fair bit of it to a point that it's like a giant fucking chunk of his net worth. And I just watch him. Like I just visited him in Boise, Idaho before I came here, and every night he's like refreshing the thing, and it's so volatile.
Oh, dude,
you
yeah.
could either be in like an amazing mood, and then like the next day you're like, "Fuck, I just lost like 25% of my net worth."
No,
Like,
it's fucking crazy.
And like trying to like deal with that, I feel like mentally and stress wise, even is like, even though on paper you're, you know, this is great money wise, and it looks awesome on your portfolio for it to like jump this much. The amount of stress you endure and like what kind of impact does that have on your like state of mind and even ability to focus on like new business endeavors and do fucking anything, enjoy your relationships, enjoy time off where you're like not refreshing your fucking thing, you know?
Dude, I know 1,000,000% what you're saying, because when I had a lot of that money in the fucking Bitcoin, it was worth, you know, crazy. I would literally like wake up and like, I would wake up to piss and I would like have to stop myself from checking, but I couldn't. I'd still check, and it's like I'd lose $2 million, or like, you know, it's like,
yeah, while you're taking a shit, you lose $2 million.
It's like, fuck, man. So when I sold it, you know, like I sold it at 16, whatever. I literally like, it was like, man, I had kind of like withdrawals because it'd be like, you know, I was so used to refreshing. I've been doing it for like almost a year that like now I like didn't have anything to sweat. So I had to like, I actually put like $1 million or $2 million back in crypto just so I had a little sweat, just something to like look at because I was like so used to doing that. So man, yeah, no, I can totally fucking relate to that.
Yeah, Chris, actually, it's funny because when I first met him, we started our business in like 2016. And when I first flew there to meet him, he had like this big poster of a Bitcoin, an Ethereum, and a Doge on his wall. I was like, what the fuck is this dog that you have on your wall? He's like, oh, it's this like stupid meme coin thing that, you know, might blow up one day. And I was like, okay, dude. And like, I hadn't even gotten into crypto yet. I was like just about to. And he had a lot of it too. And that was like one of those things where he traded it for Bitcoin like a few years ago. And then randomly it just like skyrockets. And it's like that kind of stuff too. Like I've heard of a lot of people who could have been millionaires or like changed the trajectory of their life entirely. And just by thought process of, oh, well, it's like probably smarter to get out. And they have to live with that is the fucked up thing.
100%, man. Like the guy, they always tell the story about the guy that bought the pizza with Bitcoin that would have been worth like 130 million, you know, if he just wouldn't have bought that pizza or whatever. No, it's a crazy thing, man. It's definitely not. I think Elon was primarily responsible for the Dogecoin explosion.
Yeah.
He
imagine having that kind of influence where you could just like, I'm just going to blow this shit coin up into the sky and just like tweet about it.
Yeah, dude. His fucking pull is crazy, man. People like follow him like a cult.
And
leader.
I guess that's not illegal to, like, you couldn't do that about a stock, obviously, right?
He had some, like, they looked into him. There was like some, I don't know. He's like said some stuff about Tesla where they like kind of went after. I think because he's Elon, he didn't get in trouble for some shit that like other people probably would have gotten in trouble for. But yeah, man, it's a weird thing. They haven't like really figured out how they want to treat crypto, you know, because it's not, I don't think, treated like the stock. So you can do more like pump and dump promotion stuff with it with impunity. But I don't know, man. It's kind of all gray area.
I don't know if any of these influencers will get like retroactively fucked when like new laws come out. Because some of the stuff they're doing is like straight up lying, straight up like like really fucking people over.
Well, they fined Mayweather for it. I think he like,
really?
Yeah, he was like one of the early ones that like promoted a crypto coin or something like that, and I think he did it in a way that they didn't like or whatever, and I think he got fined for it. So he was like one of the first ones they kind of like came after a little bit.
I wonder what that guy's mindset is like now. Like, you're friends with him, right? Like, how's he? He's probably even more desensitized to shit than you are.
Dude, I can't for the life of me put my hands around like the thought process of like, I don't know, man. He makes so much fucking money, and then he'll do a post for like 20 grand on Instagram. Like, it's almost like he just doesn't give a fuck about his Instagram at all.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like, I feel that because I really like, I'm so sick of social media. I think I've posted like 4 times in the last year. Like, I feel like it's a video game I beat 5 years ago. And I'm like, everybody's like wanting to play. And I don't really want to play no more, you know?
Yeah.
But it's still a powerful tool, you know? And like for a guy like him that's like possibly going to be doing fight promotions and, you know, it's got shit that like, you know, you might want to promote personally. I don't know. I feel like he does more ads than I would do, but you know.
Yeah.
He's
especially
also got
when it's like irrelevant to what you actually like care about. It sort of compromises your, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like inept brands that just think mega influencer equals money will throw money at stuff like that and not realize how disproportionately lower the pull of a guy is who doesn't give a fuck about his social media than a kid who's like grinding and like really resonates with his audience or something like that.
100%. There's that, and then there's also like the engagement piece of it. Like, the more shit that you post, and the more people like kind of like swipe out of your story, the lower your story views. Like, dude, I get like 9 million story views. Like, nobody fucking really gets that with an account of my size. But I think it's because they post a lot. Well, I think I have a lot of guys that have their notifications on for me, but don't follow me technically. So it might be like underrepresented on that side.
Yeah.
But I also don't really post that much, and I usually don't post a lot of bullshit. So I think people, when they see a story, they'll be more likely to watch all of it. Whereas like my boy Aoki, he posts a shitload of stories, right? So like when you see an Aoki story, you don't feel like you have to watch every single one because you know tomorrow there's gonna be a lot. So there's like, but the upshot of that is he gets to promote a lot of shit.
Yeah.
You know, so he gets the opportunity to promote tons of stuff because it's like a TV show, man. Like, the longer your TV show, the more commercials you can run.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I'm not posting a lot of like the show, so I can't really post a shitload of not that I would want to, but I can't really post a lot, you know, so there's the give and take of it. I personally think people massively overpost.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because for me, the problem, well, it's not really a problem. I guess it's a good problem. But for me, the more I posted, the more rewarded I got from the algorithm on YouTube, especially.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, the videos that I post on YouTube I don't really do pictures that much. I mostly just post my videos from YouTube on Instagram, and they don't perform that well. But like, when there's something there, at least people know, like, oh, I should probably tune in if he ever does a story or something. So people follow, but it's definitely like, if I don't post for like 2 weeks like I have been now, and then I post this, for example, granted this would get ridiculous views anyways just because it's you, but people are like, they're used to me posting twice a day, and now I haven't posted for 2 weeks, and they're going to be like, it's disproportionate regardless of what I posted next, for sure.
Yeah, I think the YouTube algorithm, like you said, is much different also because they want people to like consistently post. So I think you're right about that. Like, I think on YouTube, if you don't post once a week, the algorithm punishes you for that.
Yeah, you get fucked if you don't like stay in your snowball algorithm sort of thing.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense from their standpoint. It sucks from a creator standpoint, right? Because like you have this pressure to like constantly fuck and do it. You know, man, it was. Yeah, they tried to get me to do like TV shows and this shit. For me, I just never wanted to be forced to create content.
Yeah.
You know, like my thing was, I wanted to do what I was going to do, and I wanted people to like organically capture it if they could. But I was just always like, dude, I was so fucking anal about it. Like, I never wanted to like, you know, contrive. Like, I just wanted it just to be natural because I just felt like if you capture a moment in time, it's a lot cooler than if you try and like create something, you know, like. And so mine was like, I wanted the photographer to be like a fly on the wall and just like get pieces. And we missed a lot because of that, man. Like dude, of all the shit that went down, I mean, fuck, I've forgotten so much of it and we missed so much of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was better because it didn't feel like we were on a fucking show all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah, and I feel like harder to enjoy your life too when the camera's always on. Like, there's some times I don't go on vacation very often, but when I have, and I'm like, oh, I should like vlog it and get like a tax write-off or some shit, or like, I don't know, this would be good to show people. every time I've been happier when I didn't, because I'm like, if I'm recording, I don't know, a sunset or something, or fireworks, I'm looking through the viewfinder to make sure it's in the thing, and then I miss it, and it's not like I'm gonna watch that video back. You know what I mean? It's like a totally different experience. So I don't know. That's sort of what I've learned, is to kind of like, I feel like that makes sense the way you've been doing it.
Dude, I can relate more than you know. I mean, it was, for me, I just, with the Ignite stuff, I really felt like towards the end of it, I was like, I don't know, man. I was doing what I said I didn't want to do, which was kind of like, I was like a slave to producing the content, and it was like more about like capturing the moment than living in the moment.
Yeah.
And that definitely made it way less enjoyable for me, because it's like when you're worried about like getting a shot, you're not enjoying what you're doing. And then when you do get the shot, it's not as organic and authentic as like if you're just fucking having fun, if like, and also if the girls know that we're trying to get a shot, like they're all like smiling at the camera. It's like, I don't know, man, like you see guys that have tried to cop me over the years, and it's like when you look at their stuff, you can see that it's not real. Like they're not fucking those girls, like it's not like a real scene. It's like a scene that was like created, because you could tell, because everybody's looking at the camera. It's like it's a shot that's created, which is fine. I get it, but like, I don't know. It's the internet's pretty good at like figuring out like when shit is like legitimately happening and when it's not, And so, I think it's it's one of those things where it's a balance, man, because there's so many people making so much money off doing the online stuff that they almost have to, It's like you have to get those shots, you have to like capture those moments, but it makes it so it's like you're not enjoying your life as much. It's a hard balance.
Yeah. So like for our ambassadors for my supplement company, for example, I tell them to only post stories. I never want like a certain amount of feed posts or anything like that. I'm always like, when you take your pre-workout or you take this, throw up a story. Like that's what I'd want, rather than go out of your way to like pose with this bottle and like do this and get a pump and then put the bottle by you while you're flexing, or some chick like, oh, like balancing on your ass and like take a picture. Like that kind of shit doesn't work, I feel like. Yeah,
and it's tough because now like the expectation of content, I feel like, is so much higher.
Yeah.
Because everybody's fucking done everything, right? And you've already posted like all your best angles, all this shit, all the stuff that like came to mind. So now it's like, and that's where I was with the Ignite stuff, is I felt like I had to like top what I had done, And so when you get in that mindset, it's kind of like, it sucks, because then it's like you constantly like upping the bar for yourself, and it makes it kind of stressful. Because like then if you post some shit that's like not as good as your last thing, then it's like almost like your shit's declining. I've like seen guys get in their head about this stuff.
One thing that might work out though, I feel like, and this is just my like outside perspective, is the fact that the media is like disproportionately portrayed your last couple of years as like downfall type stuff. Which, from the perception of somebody who doesn't understand like tax write-offs and like all the shit that goes behind a business, a lot of it's nonsensical. But if you hypothetically, even if you leaned into that, it gives you like such a better upswing to then maybe you don't need to do the super aggressive, ridiculous shit, because now people just want to see you like get better above this thing they've perceived you to drop down to, sort of thing. So you're like climbing a mountain that was like artificially created, sort of thing.
Yeah, it was a crazy thing, dude. It was like really like while I was writing this book, like I got all this like shitty press, and because like, and it was mostly like YouTube stuff, and because like the YouTube videos did so fucking well, then all these other fucking idiots that didn't even know who I was like were doing their version of that, and it was like people were really interested in what I was doing, and I wasn't really posting a lot because I was focused on the book, and like negative stuff always does well. So yeah, man, it was like the craziest shit that I was like, oh, like nobody's even gonna fucking listen. It's like Dan's fleeing the country, he's broke, and I'm like, I was the richest I've ever been, right? Like I've got more money now than I ever had before, and it's like, so like watching this stuff, I'm just like, nobody's gonna fucking listen to this shit, and then it's like it just keeps going, and I was like, I was like I said, I was focusing on the book, so I wasn't really like paying too much attention to it, but eventually, like, you keep seeing it, you're just like, what the fuck is going on, And I don't know, man. It was just like a weird thing. Like,
I think a lot of stuff that's obvious to you now, though, over the years of learning about business and entrepreneurship and stuff, is like so not obvious to the layman. That's something that seems inconceivable how anyone could perceive it in this way. Like, for example, if you're leasing a supercar, there's potential write-offs with that. There's potential, integration into content that you could otherwise use, leverage, and then not have to pay. If you pay up in cash up front, that's a bunch of cash you can't do stuff with now, when you could have otherwise got, I don't know, a line of credit with like a bare minimum interest rate and then made more money using that money. And then people see that, they're like, you don't own the thing. You're like a fucking liar.
No, I get it, man. It's funny because I've leased every house I've ever had in fucking LA and Cali, like every one of them. I've never owned a house in California, like very specifically.
And why would you?
Yeah, like there's no interest. But I've owned every fucking car. I own my fucking jet, which I bought like fucking almost 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like I own all my shit. I own this house. Like everything's free and clear. I have literally zero debt. So it's just like funny, man. Like, you know, being worth like $350 million, having people be like, oh, he's broke, he's in debt. I'm like, I literally don't owe one fucking dollar.
But even if you did, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if it's smartly, you know.
I just haven't. Like, it's fine. Like, there's a lot of guys that I know that are like super fucking leveraged.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, I don't know, man. It wasn't. It's not bad to be. I don't really care. But it was just funny because like literally everything I was getting shit for, like not one thing of it was true.
Yeah.
Which is like really, other than like Ignite losing $50 million, but like, dude, I think we're going to make that in the fucking fourth quarter alone in sales. Like, I think we're going to do like that much in sales. Like, we've already predicted it. You know, like we beat our entire third quarter in the first month. And we said, like, our fourth quarter should beat every single fucking quarter before that, like all three previous quarters. So if you just do the math on it, it's like, you know, it should be around like $50 million in sales just in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty goddamn strong. Like, and we haven't really done like much. We haven't spent much money. So like everything that I did had a fucking significant impact because we're in like worldwide markets. I mean, we're in South America. We're in fucking Armenia. We're in the UK. We're going to the EU. We're in Abu Dhabi. Like, so like it's a worldwide brand. Like we're selling vapes now, which is just such a better fucking product. Before we were like focused on weed. And it's like, man, it was like dropping a bomb on an atomic bomb on a fucking anthill, you know? Because I'm like, we're literally in like 2 states selling weed, and I'm like broadcasting to fucking 70 million people would see this fucking thing. I can show you the analytics on like the post, right? 70 million people are seeing it, but like of those, like 500,000 could actually buy the product, you know? So
and
it's
then
like,
your customer service is inundated with people who are like, why can't I buy it? And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it was brutal, man. It was just like a bad market. Like nobody's making money in weed because like to compete with the black market stuff, like they're not paying taxes. They're selling direct to the consumer. It's like, there's just a whole bunch of reasons. But yeah, we actually pulled completely out of weed. So we're focused like completely on nicotine vape. And, you know, we're doing the alcohol and other stuff, but the nicotine vape is like 95% of our fucking sales right now.
Do you use that like quite often yourself daily, or how?
Do I use what?
The nicotine vape yourself for?
So I got like pretty addicted to it, just like trying the new flavors.
Yeah.
But
that's tough. Like even when I'm sampling energy, like pre-workout formulas and stuff, you end up like, oh shit, I accidentally ingested 900 milligrams of caffeine over the course of the day.
Yeah, dude, I got myself addicted to vapes, and then I was like, and then I kicked it. But yeah, it was a thing, man, because I'd never vaped before. I never smoked cigarettes, none of that stuff. But for me, I always saw vape as like a massive fucking, you know, positive alternative to smoking cigarettes. Like nobody around you has to smell that shit. You don't get the tar, the carcinogens in your fucking lungs. Like it's just so much healthier, so much better. And it just, you know, to me, I just looked at it like a, you know, great alternative to cigarettes. So now we're doing like the vapes, and we're also doing the CBD in the vapes. So like this is CBD, you know, so it's like same device, but like you can smoke, you know, CBD and just, you know, it's kind of more of a fucking, you know, that's obviously the best way to quit cigarettes. But some people need that nicotine, you know, to like bridge off.
I think there's like a negative stigma around nicotine too, just based on like the addictive properties. But if you actually look at it in the literature, it's like completely... Like, it's very, very neuroprotective. Like, you'll actually find people who are addicted to cigarettes, although they get cancer easier, they'll have, like, far less likelihood of Alzheimer's and things like that are, like, neurodegenerative from the nicotine actually activates receptors in your brain that are, like, pro-cognitive health. So if you eliminate the carcinogenic component, you just have the nicotine and you use it in, like, a reasonable quantity, it could be, like, a nootropic, cognitive enhancing, neuroprotective, has, like, a myriad of health benefits that people just, like, don't think about because they're like, oh, addictive.
Yeah, they get kind of swept under the rug. Like, I know a lot of, like, lawyers that'll, like, shoot the nicotine under the tongue before they go in. Like, I know a lot of people that do it. So, you know, I'm sure there's benefits to it. For me, it's like I try and put as little drugs in my body as I can. I mean, I know it's like contrary to like, you know, popular belief. I mean, you know, like obviously I fucking shoot tests and whatever.
HRT though.
Yeah. I mean, I've done like higher doses, you know, and I've done like
your most aggressive cycle is not that aggressive though.
No, it's really not, but it's not because I wasn't willing to like take the risk. Like I'm a pretty fucking, risk taking guy. Like it was just because I got negative side effects. Like, I would have juiced harder for sure. Like I got shitty genetics. Like I would like to be fucking in better shape. Like I always want to fucking lift more, be stronger, faster, whatever. Yeah. It was just like when I would take Winnie, I would break out. Like it was so many, like even fucking Oxydrol and like, Anavar, whatever. Like I would take that. And it would like fuck up my HDL, my LDL, and like a relatively low amount, like 20 to 40 milligrams, and so I don't know, man. I just like.
You ever take Tren?
I have not. No,
I'm surprised you never at least tried it one time just to say.
I know. I just like, dude, I want to get I've just heard so many horror stories about the fucking hair getting ripped out, and then also like sexual overstimulation, like
for you.
Well, like
back in the day, that would have been ruthless.
Well, yeah,
actually, it might have helped you. Fuck, now that I'm thinking about it,
like you're like fucking punishing chicks and whatever. That's cool, but like you can't stay on, right? So like, what happens when you get off? Like I don't want to
right.
Fucking was such a big part of my life that I just like couldn't risk screwing that up, and so
you start to get into weird shit too when you're on progestogenic drugs like Tren, Deca. They start to get, especially guys that are like hypersexual to begin with, and then you add that in, it makes you more into like not just kinky shit, but like you start to become like not a lot of guys, but I've seen bodybuilders that get into like trannies and like stuff that's just like totally skewing away from what they were even into to begin with. They start watching like really fucked up porn to a point that their brain's like set point is now some like ridiculous, thing that they can't get stimulated by just a normal chick in front of them now. Just like stuff like that.
I think that totally makes sense. Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to be fucking trannies, not knocking anybody that does, but like, I could definitely see like, because when I'll fuck girls and they're not supposed to be fucking me, they'll get so much more turned on. Like, and it's funny, my buddy the other night was like talking about how when he'd do threesomes with his girlfriend, he would have her like when she left the room be like, oh, don't fuck him while I'm not there. And then like, she would be in on it. Like she would be like, she didn't care. He would start fucking her and she would like come like that, like it's just funny because like women's brains, they're wired to like, I think it's humans in general, not just women, but like people want to do what they're not supposed to do. And so I think when you like watch a ton of porn or when you're doing, all this wild shit, like sometimes you got to like go a little further out to like get that same like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this. And you get like desensitized, man. It's almost like receptor downregulation or whatever. If you're like brain sexually, And so, yeah, it makes sense. It was weird. I never like got into like the really crazy kinky shit. Like, I mean, like, chicks wanted to be like slapped around or whatever, like spit on, that's cool, whatever. But I never like really got into the crazy shit. Even like the orgy stuff, like for me, it was always just like, I just wanted different. Like I wanted to fuck one girl, fuck her really good, and then fuck a different girl, and then fuck a different girl. And we could come back to this girl or this girl, but like there had to be somebody in between. Like for me, it was always just like the different. And I would forget what it was like to fuck this girl after I'd fucked, a decent amount of girls because I don't know. It's just like it was, you wait it long enough and it's just like new. So I never really like was the hit it and quit it guy. Like I felt like a lot of guys would like fuck a girl and then they would just like never want to fuck her again. And I don't know if that's like subconsciously because they don't view themselves as being like that great. So they look at this chick and they're like, well, she'd fuck me. She has to be a fucking whore. She has to suck, whatever.
I think logically, if you were to hypothetically eat, now you probably actually do something similar maybe, but like a lot of people don't eat the same thing every single day. But if you had pizza for breakfast, not that you would, just like an example, every fucking day forever, even though the first however many weeks it's like great, because pizza's pizza, eventually you're like, maybe I want like a pancake.
No, it makes sense.
And then you switch to the pancake, and then when you come back to the pizza, it's like more enjoyable, I feel like. I think that's just like normal brain chemistry.
100%. I talk about it all the time. It's like, Snickers bars is like my favorite candy bar. But if I ate Snickers bars every fucking day, eventually like you wouldn't give a fuck about Snickers bars. And yeah, I think that's why I'm saying, I think like having something in between. So, but it's funny you bring up the food example. I think that's very similar to my sex. Like I'll have the fucking same meals, but like I eat 5 times a day. So like each meal is different, but I'll have that same rotation of food.
So by the time you get back to the first one, you've already desensitized enough.
Exactly. So I think I'm just like wired like that where I'm just like a creature of habit where I could do the same shit as long as there's like different things in between,
Right. You're like, okay, so I found interesting is your like fucking stack was essentially just your baseline HRT with Cialis. Now, was that like a 5 milligram daily dose, or did you hit like a 20 every day?
No, that was 20 every day. Yeah, like fucking max dose every day, like a fucking multivitamin. And then I was also, here's one thing I didn't really talk about. Hang on, let me piss because this is going to take a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Quick side tangent from the video to give a quick note from one of our sponsors. This is Seed Synbiotic. You've probably seen me talk about Seed a couple of times at this point. It is the daily synbiotic that I trust for my pre and probiotic needs. Now, obviously, having a well diversified, balanced diet model is absolutely critical for supporting gut health, but as well from a supplementation aspect, there are very few science-backed pro and prebiotic combination symbiotic formulas out there that have actual literature to support their efficacy in actual humans instead of random rodent models. So for me, this area is pretty unexplored and frankly not an area I'm well versed in. So when I trust a company to, give me something that is science-based, I'm looking for actual evidence in humans, not, random fucking rodent models getting, massive benefits disproportionate to that of, cannot even be relatable to a human. It has no kind of scientific basis to support its efficacy whatsoever. So with me, I was actually put onto Seed by a friend of mine, Leo, that you guys have seen, Super Physiological Man podcast many times at this point. He had Crohn's, and this is something he believes is very, very useful in supporting a healthy GI. So for me, when I was looking for recommendations on what to do or digging into research, actually the first podcast I saw with Ben Greenfield where they went over, the ways this company differentiates itself from other probiotic formulas in the industry. That was my first kind of note to myself that this kind of may be worth looking into. And then, Leo giving me a stamp of approval. I was like, okay, you know what? This is going to be the one for me. So I went for it. And fortunately, they've reached out and want to actually integrate into the channel now on a regular basis. Pretty fucking cool. So it is a company I'm happy to put out there as a one of the forefront sponsors of the channel. So Seed's Daily Synbiotic is a pre and probiotic 2-in-1 capsule that supports your gut health, skin health, and a bunch of other benefits that are totally unique to that of a probiotic that you would traditionally think is only useful for not having diarrhea, essentially. They are 24 clinically and scientifically studied strains. So it's not just something, again, that supports a, good bowel movement. It seems to have a lot of interactions with other things in the body, like the gut-brain axis, and a lot of other health properties that are otherwise not just limited to, again, like I said, preventing diarrhea. So they're delivered sustainably every month. You get a glass jar that's infinitely refillable. You get a compostable, biodegradable, recyclable package for each refill each month. Each bottle lasts you exactly a month. And basically the main, the systemic benefits associated with this product, aside from, like I said, just the GI support stuff, it was designed to support gastrointestinal health, as well as gut barrier integrity, gut immune function, cardiovascular health, dermatological health, and even micronutrient synthesis. So this is something that could otherwise be useful, especially for guys that are bodybuilding too. So it is comprised of a 24 strain broad spectrum pro and prebiotic that's formulated for digestive, gut immunity, and the systemic benefits aforementioned previously. And it is comprised of 53.6 billion active fluorescent units, and it uses a 2-in-1 ViaCap delivery technology. It's like a capsule inside of a capsule to ensure adequate delivery to protect against stomach acid, digestive enzymes, and bile salts for viability through digestion. And it also will survive transit during the shipping process, which, unlike many probiotic formulas in the industry that get completely degraded during transit, this will not. It remains active, remains potent until it gets to your door, and you don't even need to store it in a fridge. So this is the go-to symbiotic formula that I've been relying on for my supplementation needs. And it is what I'd recommend if you are in the market for looking for a actual science-based pre and or probiotic formula. This is a 2-in-1, and it's definitely something I would recommend for those looking for additional GI support. So if you want to check it out, just click on the link in the description below to get 15% off your first month supply of Seed's Daily Synbiotic using code Derek at checkout to save some money and obviously help support me when you guys do so. So it's much appreciated. And obviously I only put forth brands on the channel that I feel are something that I would otherwise use personally myself or otherwise believe in or think are unique and novel in some capacity. So definitely worthwhile to check out if you're interested in GI support and whatnot and the other systemic benefits that may otherwise be associated with the pre and probiotic formulas that actually have scientific literature to support their efficacy. So anyways, check it out, and back to the regularly scheduled programming.
Okay, so
I think the security guy was afraid to turn it down too low. So I was like, I'm fucking make sure you turn it back up after you leave.
Yeah, let me, it does get hot down here because I've got all this shit. Okay, it's 58 seconds. Just open that window. Yeah, I want to tell you about the stem cell trophy factor.
Oh, yeah. Testing. Looks like it is.
We good?
Yeah, let me just actually double check that the cameras are still on, because that would be... Honestly, dude, like, I wasn't nervous to meet you. I was nervous that my fucking equipment would not work, because I'm, like, new to all this stuff. And there's like, so many things going on at one time. Like,
Well, yeah, that's when you said you didn't have a team, because normally they have like a whole like AV team that sets this shit up, so you're doing it all.
See, that's the thing that I find wild though too. Like that, I'll probably cut this part, but like Graham, for example, he has like really good interviews with you.
Yeah.
But like when I see his channel, I don't see the ROI from like how big is it? It seems like he's an elaborate team, like following him all the time and stuff.
Dude, so it's funny you mentioned that. So they had me set up in the theater where like I'm kind of sitting forward, and because of this, they're scared of this.
So far from you in this thing.
Bro, they literally made him be 6 feet away because this fucking nonsense. Actually, you might want to delete that because if you mention on or whatever, so just bleep that. But they required the 6 foot, which was fucking so stupid.
And it's like, who required it? Like Graham or like his team?
Dumb fucking liberal team or whatever. But like, so
like he doesn't own them. They like own him.
I don't know. I don't really know how it's all set, but I know like the original way they had me seated in the theater was like I'm sitting kind of forward, so they wanted me to be like this in the chair, talking to him across. It was just like so awkward. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this for 2 hours. And they're like, well, it's gonna take 2 hours. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if it takes you 6 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting like this in the chair for 2 hours having a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be facing somebody, like normal.
I'm setting an alarm to remind me to cut this out. So no worries on that.
just like cut out any word because I heard they fuck up your YouTube algorithm.
I was gonna cut out the part talking shit about his team too.
Oh, that's fine. I don't care. You can talk shit about it.
Okay.
I don't mind. Graham's a good dude, but yeah, his team, fuck. Anyways, but what I wanted to tell you though before I went to piss was stem cells and what this doctor called magic juice actually had a big impact on my ability to have sex and like have like crazy fucking hard-ons, like fuck 5 times a day, like all that shit. Like, I could do it without it, but like this stuff, like blood flow wise, performance wise, not just like sexual performance, like it was like really crazy some of this stuff. So I would do like before my workouts, I would do a 1 mile run, and I would do it at an 8 minute mile pace.
Before lifting, you would run for an hour?
No. Sorry, did I say an hour? I meant 1 mile, so an 8 minute mile pace.
Oh, okay.
So I would do whatever it was, 1 mile at an 8 minute mile pace. And then when I was doing the stem cells, I just like my heart rate was fucking super low. So I was like, did a 7 minute mile at the same heart rate.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you run much, but to drop a fucking minute mile off your pace and maintain the same heart rate is crazy. Like, and it wasn't like over a long duration. This was like a week later.
Yeah.
And then I would be lifting and I would be like, and I'm not exaggerating, like 30% stronger. Like,
you check your like, I wear like an Aura ring that checks my sleep metrics while I'm sleeping. Do you have something that checks like your resting heart rate while you're sleeping?
I do, man. So I got this Garmin watch when I was in Thailand, and it records fucking your whole sleep cycle, like your stress levels throughout the day, your heart rate. And it was fucked up because I like just bought like a fucking $1 million watch, and I just bought all these other things, and I'm like literally wearing this Garmin watch every day. Like I didn't want to take it off, and it was like, I was in this weird conundrum where I was like a watch guy, but like I literally only wanted to wear this fucking Garmin because there was just so much data.
Yeah.
Like I truly believe that's the future of medicine is like having a watch like that, and then just like it uploads everything to the cloud, and they just crunch the numbers, and you do blood work every few months, and they literally should be able to predict everything.
Yeah, it's what I'm doing right now. So my main business is the supplement company. I do nootropics, pre-workouts and stuff, but also I have a preventative medicine practice. That's actually why I'm here. Is we have a bunch of conferences for like clinical stuff to like learn endocrinology, cutting edge stuff about pharmacology and whatnot for like HRT, keep your heart safe while you're on test, stuff like that. And I have a team of doctors under me, and basically we're kind of like, I think we're probably like the premier HRT clinic in the country, but we actually care about like broad spectrum, more advanced data. So like we look at genetic analysis. So when you like spit in the tube and you get your genome assessed, you can like go in there and find little like polymorphisms they're called. They're sort of like a mutation, and like makes you more predisposed to this or predisposed to that, and maybe you alter your lifestyle accordingly based on this. But also stuff like the metrics you get on your ring or your watch, that kind of shit, like integrating it into your like prescription patterns or like what the doctor deems appropriate from a blood work diagnostics aspect. Like that stuff is definitely the way of the future, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, it's like you'll see your resting heart rate will be higher when you're kind of like in a little bit of an overtrained state, or you haven't, and I'll see it because I'll take a nap and then all of a sudden my resting heart rate would drop a few BPMs, and like, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff to it, man. I've been doing like heat therapy, the ice baths for the cold shock therapy. I mean, there's a lot of different things I've been experimenting with. But I will say, of all the stuff that I've done, hands down, it's not even close. The most powerful thing was this thing called magic juice. And it was basically a cocktail of like trophic factors. And trophic factors, if people that don't know, is like when a stem cell, when you inject stem cells in your body or whatever, it'll like go to places of inflammation, and then the stem cell will die, and the trophic factors and growth factors that it releases are what's actually responsible for doing like the repair and whatever, and the muscle building, or the anti-inflammatory properties, whatever it is. But so basically they take those trophic factors, and I don't know exactly how they do this, from a medical standpoint, but they take your blood, and so they I don't know, man. I don't, like I said, I don't know all the stuff, but they take a big thing of your fucking blood, and they basically do like, this doctor did a custom, what he called magic juice, where he uses my blood and they
spin it in a centrifuge.
No, that was some more Regenikine stuff,
okay.
like for injury. This is like, man, I wish I understood it better. But anyways, what ends up, the end result is they've got a myostatin inhibitor, the blood stuff, and then the trophic factors. And I'm telling you right now, like when I was taking that shit once a week, I was in the best shape of my life. Like, and I was doing such fucking low HRT. I was doing like literally 100 milligrams every 5 days, and I actually like cut it out completely without even doing an HRT, like post-cycle therapy, none of that stuff. Like I just like cut it out because I was feeling so good. Yeah. Like I was like, man, like I feel like my fucking test is super high. I have a high sex drive. Like everything's good. I'm strong as a motherfucker. I was doing walking lunges with 225, like I was fucking strong. And I was doing like, I don't know, 30 dead hang pull-ups, like, like pretty fucking, I mean, like I said, I'm not a genetic fucking
30
specimen.
dead hang pull-ups is pretty good, dude.
Like nothing, know, and it was just like, and I was doing them like slow and controlled, no swinging, no kipping, like I was strong as fuck, like 100-pound dumbbells on incline. And I'm only 200 pounds, so like, it was, it was like pretty impressive stuff for me anyways. I know there's guys like fucking Larry Wheels out there that'll be like curling my fucking, like deadlift max and shit, but like for me, that was really good. And it was, like I said, it was the cardiovascular piece of it. It was the strength. It was the recovery, the ability to fuck 4 or 5 times a day, no problem. Like all this stuff. I would sleep better.
How long did it last?
I ran out, man. I only had I felt like the fucking guy in Limitless when he ran out. It's just like, fucking give me more, man. I only had 26 weeks of it. And god damn, those were a good 26 weeks. And then in the second batch, because I let him use my plane or something, and in return, he's like, yeah, I'll make you some custom magic juice. It was like me, Mel Gibson. There was like one other guy that was getting this stuff, and it was like fucking life-changing shit. But I only got 26 weeks of it. And the second 26 weeks that he sent me, I had like a special fridge. I'd buy like a $30,000 fridge that kept this stuff at like negative 68 degrees Celsius. Or I'll show it to you. It's like crazy shit. But like that was what you had to have to store it. And I felt like it was like Universal Soldier type of thing. Yeah. And anyways, the second 26 weeks, when they combined my blood with it, it produced something that was off the charts. And I tried it. Like he's like, I don't really want to send you this stuff. It like seems too powerful. I was like, send me the fucking shit, dude. That's the wrong thing to tell me, right? Yeah. It's like, send me the fucking things. He's like, I don't know, man. I'm like, send it. Anyways, I took a fucking...
Do you IV it, or do you like...
I am it. I am. Yeah.
You don't worry about like losing some of it, not doing it IV? If it's like so like precious?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not like... I've never,
obviously self-administering IV is kind of sketch, so...
I would do it. I just haven't,
No, I've never done it,
But yeah, so this new shit, I started trying it when I was writing my book, and it was like, dude, I took it, I felt like a fucking genius, and I was like, amazing, but I couldn't sleep for 2 days, dude. And then I felt like a fucking zombie, and I was like, man, that first day I was a fucking rock star, but it wasn't sustainable. And then I took like a tenth of it, like a tenth of a cc, like I shot it with an insulin syringe. It was such a small amount. Couldn't sleep. Like it was like so powerful. And so, yeah, I just, ended up like tossing the rest of the shit, but he said he's going to make me some new stuff. So hopefully, I'll try the new stuff. And if it's anything like the first batch that I got, I'm going to start doing this down in like Antigua or one of the islands down there because it's too amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was stronger than a steroid cycle, stronger than like anything I've ever taken.
Wow. You trademark Magic Juice yet?
No, I haven't.
Got to get on that, dude.
It's not my thing. It's his thing. We'll just be able to sell it.
But like via, like even if it's his thing though, like if you're gonna, get the secret to make it or whatever, like you could.
No, he's just gonna produce it and then we'll be able to sell it. Okay. So yeah, I don't know.
Sounds brandable though.
It does. No, I'm just praying that it's as good as the first shit that I had. Because it was, man, like I said, it was life changing. Because and another thing about the stem cell stuff is like, man, if you've got an issue, like if you got inflammation in your body, it'll find it.
Yeah.
Like I was supposed to have like a shoulder surgery. I had like a torn labrum, whatever. And this was like one of my first experiences with stem cells. They did the Regenikine stuff and that was good. But when I went and did the stem cell stuff and the trophic factor stuff, I mean, dude, I was fucking doing power cleans and boxing 3 weeks later, and I couldn't lift my fucking arm. Yeah. Like, it was bad. And then it was just like, so there's shit out there, man. Like, in your lifetime, I think you're going to see people, like, extend how long they live, the quality of life. Yeah. I think they're going to, like...
I think we see that sort of in pro athletes already. Yeah. Tom Brady, what, he's like 45 or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny, man. Like, everybody's such little fucking bitches about this HRT shit, and like, nobody wants to talk about it, like, I don't understand, motherfucking Natty. Like, this is fucking Mike O'Hearn guy. Like, it's like, oh, I eat duck eggs, and I'm just, like, more jacked and shredded than most of the guys that are, like, fucking competing professionally.
The fucked up thing, though, is when he sells it, too.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
It's like you need $1,800 per like box of duck eggs.
Like, here's the thing, dude. Like, you're fucking jacked in an amazing shape for a dude that's doing every steroid. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Like, whatever you're doing, it's not like you're just like people think that like, oh, I'm just gonna do steroids and sit on the couch and like look like I don't want to get too big. Yeah. Like that's my favorite is like guys like, oh, I would do steroids, but I don't want to get too big. It's like, motherfucker, that is never going to be concerned for you,
There's definitely massive insecurity in the fitness industry, though, that compels them to even get to this size to begin with. And then above and beyond that, like Mike O'Hearn, for example. I don't know how factual this is, but like I made a couple vids on the guy, and I've had girls reach out over DM and tell me like ridiculous stories. And like one chick, it was like pre-Instagram even, because he's been around for a minute. And before Instagram even came about, he tried to get some chick. She rejected him. I don't know, just like, I forget what he did exactly, but then when Instagram came out, he went and found her profile. And it's not like she's a social media influencer or something. He like went and found this random chick who rejected him like years ago and like blocked her. Like, can you imagine like you're in your head thinking that's worth your time to go do?
Dude, I don't get it with him because he's like a fucking great looking dude. He's tall, he's jacked. Like, what the, like, does he have a 2-inch dick? Like, what is it? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Like, you've got like, I don't get it, man. Like, I don't understand.
He's aging, like, incredibly well for his everything,
give me that fucking guy's genetics, man. Like, please, for the love of God. I mean, hats off. Much respect to him, aside from, like, his fucking, like, lying about his juice use, which I think is, like, almost comical at this point. But the problem with it is, like, here's the thing, man. I don't give a fuck what you do. I don't care, like, whatever. But the problem is, like, if you're Mike O'Hearn and you look like a fucking Greek god, and you're trying to at like 50, whatever the fuck he is, like grandpa age, right? And you're trying to tell people that you're natural, it just like fucks up the confidence of a lot of guys that are like out there, even on fucking steroids.
Oh yeah,
that like
even the guys on the heavy gear,
like heavy gear.
I will
like,
never look
like
this.
Probably those guys the most, right? Like this guy's jacking all this fucking anadrol and all this other shit, and like can't even get close to what this fucking guy is, looking like and lifting on top of it. I don't know. I just think it's like, I don't know, man. I'm not one to fucking judge people, you know. Like God knows I've got enough fucking judgment of my own, and I don't really like to judge people that I haven't met or whatever, or don't know his story. But like, I don't know, man. He's a guy that like to me, it's just like.
I almost feel like they come from a time where you would have been canceled for saying it, but now they're so deep in their lie that they have to carry it on.
No, I get it. You know, like I just feel like. Man, it's funny because like for a guy that's like been blasted like myself for like, you know, people think that like I was doing like fake shit. I'm like such a stickler for authenticity. Yeah. You know, and it's like so weird because I've gotten like a lot of these like headlines like, oh, Dan got caught faking everything. It's like, motherfucker, I've been doing this for like 10 years, dude. Yeah. Like, I was famous and fucking really rich before I started Ignite. In fact, that's why I started Ignite, is because I was so fucking famous that I couldn't go anywhere without being harassed all the time, that I wanted to like turn this into some kind of a business, because it's like, if I have to have all the downsides of fame and like the loss of privacy and like constantly having people come up and like forced interactions, I'm like not really like a very fucking social guy, contrary to popular belief, right? Like, I'm not a guy that like wants to go out to fucking like ball games all the time, be in big crowds and shit. But like, I can't do that. Like, I can't do that anymore. You know, like you got to get, I mean, and it's not like people like coming up talking shit, like knock on wood. I've literally never had one single person come to me, which is crazy. Yeah. Talking shit, like not one fucking time. But like still like, you know, I just got $1 million watch stolen off my wrist. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it wasn't like I got fucking like mugged. Like, I didn't even feel it, you know? But like, there's still like, when you're going out, and I take all the pictures of these fucking people. So it's like when you're doing that and you're in crowds and like people are fucking surrounding you and whatever, like shit can happen. You can get your wallet stolen, your fucking watch. Like, so you kind of have to have security and whatever. So it's just, you know, it's a limiter, you know? And so I don't know, for me, it was, if I got to deal with all this shit, like I want to like turn it into something, you know? I felt like I feel like I would kick myself if I didn't, you know, like down the line. And I also want to get out of like playing poker, because it was just like such a stressful job.
No, I feel like if somebody did that forever, you'd die like what, like 50 or 60 from sheer stress, probably.
Dude, yeah. Well, and you know, fuck, man, it was like, and I thought it would like turn off. Like, I thought if I stopped posting, like it would go away, but it's just like, it's not going away, you know? Like, it just fucking isn't, man. So yeah, it was just weird. Like, it's weird how short people's memories are, you know? Yeah. Like, I don't know, because it was like in 2013, 14 when I really started like blowing up, and I started Ignite at like the middle of 18. So it was just like weird to hear people say that, you know, like this was a long time, you know, like Ignite funded his whole life. Like, you know, it's like, motherfucker, I bought a jet 6 years prior to this, you know, like having a jet costs $1.5 million a year just to fucking like, even if you don't fly it, it's $1.5 million a year, like between the hangars and the pilots and like all the shit. Yeah. So I don't know. I just think like people just, man, they're so easily fucking like manipulated by like watching one video. Yeah. It's and you've seen it, you know, like in the last couple of years with like this. God damn it, I can't say it. Anyways, believe it. Yeah. But like, you know, just with like what's going on, man, like people really are herd animals, you know. And I knew that before, but like you've really seen it in the past couple years. It's just like, man, if everybody's going right, like, you know, fuck, I better go right. You know, it's like that mentality is like they just follow the herd, even if it just makes no sense. Like, you know, trans women in sports, for instance, like you got a fucking, you know, like a biological man beating the fuck out of some girl in MMA. And
like fighting too, that's
what I'm saying, MMA. This is like an ex-special forces guy. Yeah. You know, and like, here's the thing, dude. I don't give a fuck what you do. Like, every one of my assistants is gay. Like, I love gay guys at my parties. They don't fuck up the ratio, like, in the sense they're not gonna fuck all your chicks. Like, I actually like. I don't give a fuck what people do. I don't care if you want to chop your dick off. I don't care if you want to dress it and fucking whatever. Like, I really don't give a shit. But like competing against women, just like from a fucking like bone structure, hormone standpoint, it makes no fucking sense. But everybody's so worried about being politically correct that they can't see things that on the surface are just like so fucking blatantly obvious, but they're so worried about like being offensive. Like this guy that just plowed into a fucking, you know, big group of people in the fucking van. It's like, you know, he was a black guy that was like a big BLM guy. So like, no talk about him, no talk about the fact that he was like said like all this anti-white shit and killed a bunch of white people. You know what I mean? Like when it doesn't fit the narrative, it's like wiped off the fucking press. It's kind of a crazy time to live in, you know?
Oh yeah, and it's like, it's weird too, because even when you want to talk about it, you're kind of like have to tiptoe around how you phrase your words and shit. Like,
Yeah.
I should just be able to say, you know, like, you have a higher, I don't know, your lungs are literally bigger, so you shouldn't be fucking competing in cycling against this guy, you know?
Well, bone structure wise, just like, I mean, it's just the mechanics, like just men are just built differently. I mean, there's a reason why there's men and women's sports. Look, create a trans division.
Yeah, that's what
fine.
I said. And it's like, the argument is, well, there's not going to be enough people to, like, even do it. Well, it's like, well, it's not my problem, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you are the one who imposed this position upon yourself. And it's not like our responsibility to like flexibly like allow you into these like subsections of women versus men. And it's like, it's not like you see women transitioning to male and then competing against men and getting like fucking ruined. Obviously not. It's the other way around.
Like, to me, man, I think it's like a whatever it takes type of thing. Like, I think people should be able to fucking shoot gear. Like, if you want to regulate it, like, fine. Cap the testosterone at 1,000, you know, milligrams per whatever the fuck, 1,000. I don't even know.
Nanogram per deciliter.
There it is. Yeah, that per week or whatever the fuck, right? Like, just cap it. Because, like, why is it fair that a guy that's got naturally 350 has to compete against another dude that's like fucking naturally 1,100, right? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I just think like apples to apples, like just cap it. I mean, fighting was a lot better when they fucking were all juicing. You know, guys were stronger. Like, I mean, that's why you watch professional sports. You want to see like the fucking peak.
And one thing you could definitely argue that I sort of touch on sometimes is now you're creating kind of like disparity between those who are at the top and are well connected, otherwise may be able to circumvent around the doping parameters.
Oh, they're all doing it.
But the guys who are like just fresh in something and don't have the means or the resources or the know-how or the connections to get around it. So even though on paper it's like banned for everyone, you might have guys at the top. It's almost like a poor guy trying to compete with like a wealthy guy in, you know,
100%.
some sort of business endeavor. It's fucking impossible when a guy has money to work with to make more money versus the guy who's poor starting from nothing. Like the grind to 1 million is like dramatically more difficult than like the grind from 1 to 10 and then 10 to 100 sort of thing. So like the guy who's like at the top of a fighting division, he has like all the access to fucking whatever.
Yeah, the designer drugs that you can't even test for, the SARMs or, you know, the peptides. There's so much shit out there. Fuck, man. Just like the HGH stuff, you know, or not the HGH, the trophic factor stuff, the stem cell stuff.
Oh yeah, if you have like a fucking torn fill in the blank, maybe I have the money to get it fixed quickly and you don't because you're just some like poor up and coming guy who's grinding.
And they're doing that. Like the stem cells, like a lot, like most pro athletes. That's the thing is like, you know, these guys are just like the public perception is that these guys don't do anything, but these guys are doing all sorts of shit. They're just doing shit that they can't get tested for. And, you know, some of that stuff has, you know, better effects than, you know, I don't really know much about the SARMs or any of that stuff. I'm actually kind of like out of the loop. I'm sure you know a ton about it, but there's definitely shit that people are taking that isn't being tested for or that's got a very short window or whatever. Yeah.
And it's like even not just even the know-how of knowing that exists. Like you might not even know guys you're competing against are doing shit when you're that new to it or like not well connected because it's like, oh, there's this big banned list and like I get tested randomly every like fucking 3 weeks or something, so obviously everyone's clean just like I am. Probably not the case.
No, I mean it's a crazy world. I mean, if you look at athletes now, just how they fucking look, I mean their bodies, you know what I mean, it's just like fucking dramatically different and they're breaking all the fucking records and like all this stuff. And I just have to believe that it has to do with, you know, I just know what your body can do naturally. And it's not a lot. Like your body can improve and you can, you know, make strides and whatever. But the difference of when you're taking fucking shit that's specifically designed to, you know, make you recover faster, all this stuff, it's just like, there's just only so much you can do without overtraining as a natural athlete. I mean, you can't train 6-8 hours a day as a natural athlete.
Especially the guys who are weight cutting in UFC aggressively, like obviously your test is going to crash. You're going to feel you're literally depriving yourself of nutrients to make some weight class that's far lower than you otherwise should weigh. Water depleting the shit out of yourself, like all this stuff. It's going to be very, very dramatically like impactful on your performance.
Yeah, the creatine kinase levels have to be through the fucking roof. Like that to be in a massive state of overtraining. I mean, it's just like
and then competing a guy who's even if he gets away with a little bit, that's like that's way more useful. Like even HRT trying to cut on HRT versus off. Like everything crashes when you're cutting that dramatically, trying to get to like single digit body fat to step on a scale at, you know, some body weight you otherwise should never walk around at. Like your T levels will be like fucking
just
200.
mentally too. Like going into a fight, you know what I'm saying? Like with super low testosterone has got to be like pretty difficult.
Fuck yeah, for sure. Something I found interesting you said is how you're like introverted, contrary to popular belief. So a a lot of people don't know, Chris Diotis, who's my business partner, some of you guys that have been around for like years might remember him. I did a couple podcasts with him a while back. He went to University of Florida with you, and we talked about it. You know, I actually heard of you first through him back when I was like fucking 19 years old or something. Like, he talked about a lot of the male self-improvement stuff. He used to post on YouTube and kind of, I don't know, he was like a mentor to a lot of teenage guys who were coming up, learning about the ways like social dynamics work with women and like how shit actually is. And you were like one of the reference points before you blew up about, you know, like a guy that's like, you know, done it sort of thing already, but weren't, you know, it's not like you were a fucking, maybe you were already kind of like a celebrity at the time, but not to the degree of now sort of thing. Yeah. And he told me that back when you guys were in university, you had like a unique knack for making friends wherever you were sort of thing. And you just like, you know, you came up to him in the gym apparently, like very friendly and were like very easy to get along with, where everyone just wanted to be around you sort of thing. Like, obviously when you, in the book, you discuss your, you know, things that motivated you and being, you know, not attractive to women or not having as much success as you felt, you know, you wanted sort of thing, and seeing other people around you succeeding, you not being bullied, etc. And sort of led you down this path of like, sort of like self-improvement in like a dramatic fashion that eventually leads you to probably disproportionately progress at an accelerated rate in like, you know, social dynamics and stuff. Like, I used to be fucking terrified of talking to chicks, and then I used to go to the mall and just like make myself go talk to people randomly.
I would force myself.
Yeah. So like I would, and I still remember, it's funny because that like dopamine set point of like, you know, achieving some milestone, and how every time you do something dramatic, you get desensitized to that and your bar is set higher. Back when I did my first approach and I got rejected, that was like, that set point was like the equivalent of now like getting millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's how like the floodgates felt like it opened when I first talked to a chick, and I was like, holy fuck, I can go up to somebody I don't know, not get introduced to them. Like, I literally don't even fucking know you. I just walk up to you and talk to you like a human. Like, floodgates felt like they opened at the time. And Chris was kind of like the catalyst for that. And he used to discuss your stuff a lot. And that kind of thing, was that developed through like huge exposure therapy, or how did you get to that point yourself?
So, you know, I was not cool for most of like junior high. And then in high school, I did like, I think it was like, fuck, man. It was like, or maybe it was before high school. I did 7 schools in 5 years. So it was like, I was moving around a lot. And so the downside to that was, you know, it sucked. You had to make new friends. You had to do all this shit.
Yeah.
You didn't know anybody. The upshot of it was you kind of got to like reinvent yourself a little bit. You know, like when I got caught fucking jerking off and like, you know, almost fucking got my ass beat in front of the school and like all this like embarrassing shit. When you go to a new school, that doesn't like come with you. So that's kind of nice, you know. And so, and you can also like kind of like, you know, just figure out who you are. Cause like at that age, you're like kind of like figuring out who you are, you know? So you like, you know, you kind of like take things from, you know, people that you respect and whatever. And I went in my senior year. I was like really excited for the first time. I was like really excited to go to school. I was finally popular. I had friends. Like I was, you know, on the fucking baseball team. Like I was going to be starting pitcher. Like I had like all this shit going for me. You're thrown in jail fucking day one. It's like the first time in my life I actually want to go to fucking school. I'm in fucking jail. Yeah. And man, that was just like really shitty. I spent 3 weeks in jail, and then I didn't really have a choice. Like I got kicked out of the state of Utah. I couldn't go to public school there, and I couldn't go to public school in Florida because I had missed the thing and because of like the gun school, whatever. I just like literally couldn't go to school. So I had to get a GED. And at that point, it was like, it put me on a crossroads. It's like, okay, community college and, you know, and live at home with my fucking parents. Or it was, you know, go in the military like my dad did. And, you know, he went to Vietnam and as a high school dropout and ended up getting into Harvard and whatever and became officer and, you know, whatever. So it was pretty clear that that was the path that, you know, would lead to some redemption. You know, community college, I don't think anybody would really respect that. And I don't know, man, I wasn't really like into fucking school that much. So anyways, did the military thing. And I think that helped me, you know, grow up a bit. You know, you're like around a bunch of fucking, you know, guys. I was the youngest guy pretty much, you know, throughout it because I went in right as I turned 18. Yeah. And so I was forced to like be more social, and I'm all, you know, you're also around a bunch of fucking alpha males. You're going through fucking hardcore shit. And I think the testosterone, like doing that stuff when I first fucking did like my like little bitch ass cycle of Deca for 3 weeks, like it was, you know, it changed like the way I thought, you know, because like I went from a state of like being massively overtrained to now I'm like actually in decent shape. I actually have like, you know, higher testosterone levels. I'm recovering. I'm getting stronger.
Didn't they hit you with like an 18 gauge needle or something ridiculous?
Dude, yeah, it was Ready Jacked. It was the fuck, and I didn't know, man. I was like, the
like
only
Ready
thing
Jacked for who? A fucking horse? Like,
I know, right? It was like so crazy, and I'm like, wait, I've read the books. Like, 50 milligrams doesn't seem like a lot. I'm like, but if I want to do 200 milligrams, it's 4 cc's. I can't even fit that in a needle. I'm like, so there has to be something up. I was so confused.
Yeah,
I was just like so confused. I'm like, I don't understand, and So anyways, yeah, man, just like fucking Mexican fucking back pharmacy, whatever. Guy like slaps he like swabs his site and then open hand slaps my ass and then just like, it actually worked. He like slapped my ass so hard that I didn't really feel the fucking cannon go in.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen an 18 gauge, by the way, like that's
not fun.
It's a harpoon, dude. Like that would leave like, I would think a hole for like, that would become like a visible scar for a long time, perhaps.
It was fucking bleeding. It was just obnoxiously larger than it needed to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I did that, and then I think it was like then that I realized that I had probably like naturally low test levels, or at least lower than I wanted them to be, anyways. And I just, I kind of like just started my HRT around about 20. And that helped me out because I was in better shape. Also, I think testosterone gives you like a little bit of a level of confidence too.
Stress resilience too.
Yeah.
Like especially in buds, I can imagine.
And I had gone through, like this crazy fucking training. I did like 510 days of this fucking training. I did 2 hell weeks. Like, I went through like some fucking shit.
Yeah.
So I think the combination of that and then also the confidence of, being in good shape and being on test and like knowing you can go through this shit, that helped me out. As far as like the guy stuff, like I was like confident around any guys, but then like when I went to college, it's like I hadn't really fucked that much, man. I hadn't really been around girls. Like when I got out of when I would go on leave, like I would go home on leave in the military. I actually got some pussy when I went home and stuff, like here and there. I'll never forget, there was one time I finished Hell Week the second time, and there's this like really hot chick that lived in my complex, and I like didn't really know how to talk to her, but I had always like wanted to bang this chick. I didn't fuck her, but I come home from Hell Week and like she's like, oh, like, could you help me move some furniture? I'd been up for 5.5 days with no sleep. Like, I was literally destroyed. Like, I had stress fractures, like ITB, like every fucking injury you can imagine, a hole in my stomach from the fucking ibuprofen. Anyways, she's like, yeah, could you, I'm moving, some furniture. I was like, yeah, no problem. So I'm like literally moving furniture after fucking.
And you think you're gonna like maybe bang her at
and
like
I don't. No, that was just I didn't. But it was just funny, man. Like the links that you go through to even like get a chick's attention. But so anyway, so after the military, I go to college. I go to college with some confidence because now I'm like 22 years old. I've been through a lot of shit. I've actually got a little bit of money saved up because of the military and the. I'm now getting the VA benefits. I'm getting the GI Bill. I'm getting the Pell Grants. I'm technically qualified as an independent, so my parents, none of their financial shit had anything to do with me, so I get all the grants, all the stuff. So I'm making decent money. I'm in college. I'm in a good fraternity. My brother was already a Pike, so I kind of like was able to bypass the pledge process a little bit by like having him be my like older brother. Because I mean, look, after 510 days of SEAL training, I don't want some fucking 19-year-old hazing me. I'd fucking kill him, Like, so it was probably best for all of us. But yeah, so I went to college as 22-year-old that's already in a good fraternity and in good shape, and I wasn't like really that good at talking to girls. I mean, I was like, I would just do it, but like I wasn't confident really, but I still fucking.
But you did it is the thing, because most guys just don't do it.
That's the thing. Like compared to who I was up against.
Yeah, like the bar is so low.
Yeah, I was a fucking killer compared to these dudes. You know what I'm saying? So like my game was shit. But it was fucking plenty good enough. Like, one of the things that people don't realize, like, going to college is, man, like, it's so easy to get fucking laid. Like, all these girls are there. They just want to get drunk. They want to have fun. They want to fuck guys. They're finally away from their parents. And, like, the guys that you're competing against are a bunch of fucking idiots. Like, they're just getting drunk and drooling on themselves. Half the time, they drink. I would talk to girls stone sober.
That's the way to do it, too.
Yeah, most guys would have to get shit-faced.
Yeah.
And I would do it sober. So then when I like had a cap of fucking G or I had like a beer or two or something, it was just like, man, you had no inhibitions. You weren't worried about shit. You're like the most confident dude in the fucking world. Because if you could do it sober, you're good. And I wouldn't get fucked up. Like these guys would get fucked up. So they would think that they needed to keep drinking. They'd be like, okay, I'm getting more confident now. 5 more beers, they couldn't fucking walk, right?
Yeah.
So like there's a fine line between like drinking to lose inhibition and then drinking to be a fucking invalid, and they would cross that line more often than not. But the big thing I noticed like when I was in college is, man, we had so many fucking girls. Like, like we would have a party. We would have every sorority would come to our party.
Yeah.
And no other fraternity would throw a party on that night. And there was like, 14 sororities? So, we're one fraternity. So the ratio was always crazy. And that's when I saw it, man. I was like, wow, this is a fucking big deal. Like girls have to like aggressively come to you, and they want to hook up. And I was like, man, it was just like so eye-opening. And I took that when I would like throw parties in LA. I would just like would always try and have that 10-to-1 girl to guy ratio because I knew the power of it. And so and as I fucked more girls, I got more confident and whatever. But I would force myself to do it, and I would do it everywhere. I wouldn't give a fuck. It was the grocery store, like I would just go up.
Yeah, it was I don't think a lot of people realize like everyone starts somewhere. Like your Instagram at one time was 0. At one time you had, no notches on your belt. Everybody starts at the same place sort of, and you're in your head about the same kind of shit. And you had that moment in time probably where you saw a hot chick and you're like, should I go up to her? Should I not? And you feel like, I'm being creepy
central.
now. And then, and eventually like I would get to the point where if I couldn't go up like immediately, you're gonna start getting in your head, so you start walking instead of like thinking about it. But getting to that point is like the biggest fucking hurdle, and most guys just end up standing there and they're playing with their phones, doing fucking whatever is not doing what they should be doing.
And it's like jumping off a cliff, like when you're in the water, obviously.
I always talked about it like double Dutch jump rope, where it's like, not that anyone would do this now, but like you see this thing going around and you have to like, you feel like you're trying to time it properly, and then if you do it wrong, you think you're gonna get slapped in the face sort of thing. Like that's how I always said, just jump into it, and that's what you got to do. But similar kind of like
the cliff jumping to me was a good analogy, just because like the longer you stood up there and looked down at that fucking water 70 feet below you, like the scarier it gets, and the more you're in your head, the more you're like, come on, you fucking pussy, and this whole thing, this inner monologue that you're doing.
And chicks are perceptive too, so they can can probably tell how a lot of the time this guy was just like, fuck, like, damn it.
100%. They see it a mile away, because you have to understand, like, these girls have been being hit on since they're like 14 years old, so they know what it looks like when a guy wants to fuck them. And if they're a hot chick, most guys always want to fuck them, so they just see it. Like, it's so obvious. You're like when somebody's trying to pitch me a fucking business, you know what I mean, and they like beat around the bush and they finally give me their pitch. It's like, okay, here it is. It has to be the same way for a girl that's at the bar. It's like, okay, here's another guy trying to fuck me. He's not trying to be my buddy. And so I think, it's one of those things where, so you're already going into a fucking thing where it's kind of like an ambush, where like they know that you're like coming up to fuck them. And so for me, I think the breakthrough was when I stopped hitting on them, and I would just talk to them, like have a conversation, ask them a question, like, and it could lead nowhere. Most of the time it didn't lead fucking anywhere, but like the more comfortable you are talking to a girl, the more she's going to perceive you as confident. And that's a big deal, like for a woman to perceive you as confident definitely ups your chances of getting laid, and like just ups, like it improves just the dynamic of the relationship wherever it goes. If you start off at a good point, like that's why I always say, like, part of my setup is making women chase you, because when a woman is chasing you and she finally fucks you, it's like she's accomplished something. Versus like when you're fucking like aggressively hitting on her and chasing her ass around the fucking bar all night, she finally bangs you, and then she's like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Or like, when you're hitting on her, she's like looking at all these reasons why to like you're not good enough, or why she shouldn't fuck you, because like, she knows she can have you, right? Like, like if I'm pitching you on a fucking business deal, the first thing you're thinking about is like, maybe not me, but if some fucking guy off the street is pitching you on a business deal, the first thing you're thinking about is like, all the reasons why this won't work. Well, same thing with you're hitting on a girl. She's thinking of all the reasons why you're not good enough to fuck her, or whatever, all the things wrong with you. Versus if she sees you surrounded by some fucking hot girls and she's curious about you and she comes up to you and you're kind of like dismissive, now all of a sudden it's like you're the same guy, she's the same girl in the same fucking bar, but now she's like wants to fuck you. It's like, I don't know, man. People don't understand like the importance of like getting a girl to chase you.
Something I thought was kind of revolutionary when I came up with it. This was like one of my first strategies, is if I was at, like, I don't really like clubbing anyways, to be honest. Like, it's kind of bad environment if you're not already like set up when you go into it and going with, you know, people who you kind of know who you're going to end up with at the end of the night sort of thing. You're just cold going up to random chicks in groups. Logistically, you're not even close to your house. You're downtown relative to your wherever the fuck you live.
And that's a big factor too.
Oh, dude, being as close to your bed as physically possible.
When I would host a club, I would insist that I had a fucking hotel room. Like, for instance, at Marquee, they had a bungalow attached to the club. I would fucking bring a girl, fuck her, go back to the thing, bring another. I would have banged 3 chicks before the fucking night's over almost every time.
No,
you know,
the time between whatever it is, that meeting to wherever you're going is like critical. Because how many times does shit get fucked up in between that?
Well, and during that whole time, we're back at this like, okay, should I bang him? Whatever. Like, she's like looking for reasons, and you could give her a million reasons during that time. Like your fucking armpits could stink, your breath could be bad, like whatever, right? Like a million fucking things could happen. Like, it's like when you've got a girl that's willing to fuck you, like I always say, like never put off till tomorrow, pussy that you could fuck today. Because if you fuck her today, you can always fuck her tomorrow. But if you don't fuck her today, you may not, And so.
Yeah, I was, for me, during my like cost efficient, like hyper aggressive, like PUA phase, when I was like trying to get this shit, handled, I used to go to a bar that was within a 1-minute drive of my place. And it was within walking distance technically, but it was like one drink, I'd be under the threshold where I could just drive home, and I would just, go on the date. It would be like 45 minutes to an hour. And I don't know, dates maybe not the most effective way to do it, but back then to me, I lived in an area where it wasn't the colleges were very transit. Like you would go to class and you would go home. No one would like party on campus. No one
They didn't have dorms and all that shit.
They did, but they sucked. They were terrible. So you'd usually just, and even the chicks when they were there, they were just commuting to there. They'd go to their class and they'd go home. So a lot of the times you'd be meeting them between like classes. Like you'd be walking through the hall and you just have to be like on it. So like, or in class if you see them and you talk to them before or after or whatever. So I would like go to this date and I would always make sure I was like in the same place logistically, like within 60-second drive of my place, like the least amount of, things that could go wrong between the process. I think that's critical, like having that shit set up, because a lot of times people just think about, is my game sick enough? Yeah. Like the logistics thing is fucking huge.
I mean, that's, I wrote a book about it, like the setup. It's like kind of, like you put in the effort of the time to like create an environment that's conducive to get what you want. And whether it's pussy or money or whatever, it's like you figure out what you want and then you figure out the best way to get it. And, for me, it was always like, create an environment that's conducive to get your outcome. And so for the girls, it was, there was a lot of things. There was, the jealousy, there was the competition, there was, your perceived value or your status or whatever. It was like, I just want to trigger as many attraction mechanisms as possible, because not only did I want it to be easy to get laid, but I wanted the chick to really want to fuck me. So I would like, and I talk about it in the book, like I would like just massively do overkill sometimes where people would be like, you really didn't need to probably do all that to fuck this girl, but like the sex was way better because she just really wanted to fuck me, So sometimes I would go overboard, not so much for the ease, but just because I felt like the sex would be better,
Yeah, the thing I found interesting about the way, like, you talk about, Neil Strauss edited the book, right?
He did my first edit.
Okay, so what's interesting about that is he is kind of like, probably for guys over like 25 maybe like 28 or I don't know, around there, most people have read the game who kind of were not having success with women that they wanted. And that's
why I got him to edit it, because I read the game and I was like,
so when I read that you read the game in your book, I was like, oh shit, like how much of this, like this material did he run when he was like first getting into this? And like how much did he think was applicable? How much did it help? Because sometimes it's like, you don't even know what to say, let alone like going up to a chick in your head. It's like, it's not that hard. Just, jump off the cliff. But it's like, well, what do I say, Dan, when I get in there?
Yeah, and then you get in there and it's like, okay, you had this great, whatever, like few lines to get in, but like you still got to carry it. And so
So the mystery method though, from the fucking game, it was like this big script, and Neil doesn't really go into it fully, I think, in his book, but it's like you eventually start digging through the internet and through their, PUA forums and shit when you first learn about this stuff, and you start to learn that Neil's game is based off the mystery method, which is essentially like a giant script from like DHV spike here, neg the girl, make her feel a bit shittier, and now you're a little bit above her, and by the time you're at the end, your dick is in her. And that's like the mathematical equation of like having sex. So like me, when I first learned about this stuff, I was like, oh my God, like it's just like math, it doesn't matter about anything else. It's just game. I could look like a fucking ridiculous guy wearing, the stuff they used to wear to like Peacock and whatnot.
I met him. I actually met Mystery and Matador. So it was funny. I never really like got into the PUA stuff too much.
So you never did the Mystery Method stuff?
No, I never read it. It was just laziness. Like I hate to say it, but like
that's really good though, because
I was
you
into
developed your own. You learn when you get into it. It might get your foot in the door, but then you need to learn how to talk yourself. Otherwise, you're just reciting Neil and Mystery's shit.
For me, the conceptual pieces were interesting. Like and it's funny because I wrote a book in 2016. I actually didn't write it. I had the guy that wrote I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. Okay. Not Tucker Max, but the guy that actually wrote Tucker Max's book, I think. He wrote it. And at the time I was talking to Neil Strauss, and I wanted Neil Strauss to write the book. And I wanted the book to basically like be primarily like to teach guys like how to fucking get laid. Like I wanted that to be a big focus in the book. And I think at the time the PUA community was getting shit or whatever, and Neil kind of like didn't really want to like, he wanted it to be more self-helpy. And I'm like, look, dude, I'm a fucking millionaire. Everybody thinks I'm a fucking trust fund kid. I'm not the self-help guy. I don't want to be the self-help guy. That's just not me. And that's kind of like the book that he wanted to write. So we hung out a few days and parted ways and didn't end up deciding to do the project. And so this guy Bird wrote the book, and it was good. But the thing is, like, my life's been so crazy that like it can't be told in a braggy tone, or it's just way. And I'm not a brag, like contrary to popular belief, I'm actually not really like a fucking braggy guy. I know you wouldn't think that looking at my fucking Instagram, but like for me it was like always like subtle brag kind of stuff, you know. And I don't know, like you beat your fucking chest type of guy is like, I don't know, to me always like seemed weaker. And so that was just never the tone that I wanted. And I didn't think it was going to be the right tone regardless. But like I read Hope to Serve Beer in Hell, and I found the stories interesting because of the way he wrote them, you know, and it was like in this fucking like kind of fratty, you know, tone and whatever. And I thought that would translate good into my book and for my demographic, but it just didn't. Like it was just the wrong voice. And so I kind of like abandoned the project. Like the whole book was written, but I just refused to do it. And I sent Simon & Schuster their money back and just kind of abandoned it. And then when I was revisiting it, after I was hanging out with Goggins during, it was, you know, it was just one of those things where I was just like, you know what, if I want to do this thing, I just got to do it my fucking self. And so,
Are you gonna do the audiobook too?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try. When are you going
to plan to do that, dude?
I'm just going to have to suck it up and do it in my fucking theater room, I think. I've got it all set up. I just, man.
So that's going to be like 12 hours?
Dude, way more than that. I'm not a reader. Like, you have to understand, like, I've read, like, a handful of books my whole life. Like, I hate writing. I hate reading. That's why this whole project was, like, literally put me in fucking hell.
Yeah.
And I did all my, like, aside from the first edit that Neil did, I did 36 edits after that. Like, he basically, I had a 708-page book. He cut it down to 350. And then I brought it back to, like, I don't know, 450 pages, and then I brought it back to 550 pages, and then I cut it down to 500. You know, so I was like expanding, contracting. Like we lost a lot of like, I thought pretty good stories along the way, but I refused to have the book over 500 pages. Like I took out the story where like fuck the bodybuilding.com guys, like which is a really good story.
This is the weirdest coincidence ever. So I was just in Boise, Idaho with Chris, and he hired Jeremy DeLuca to his company. Jeremy is the brother of that guy, and he was like, he was asking me about how Rogan went and shit, and I was like, oh, it was great. And he was like, what's next on your plan? Are you going to, I was like, I'm going to Vegas. He's like, oh, what's there? And I'm like, I have these clinical conferences and stuff, and I'm doing this podcast with Dan Bilzerian. Maybe you've heard of him. He's like, oh yeah, that's the fucking guy who like fucked my brother's girlfriend. And I was like, wait, because it rung a bell, because back then it's not like I was even online really or that involved. Like I remember hearing the story, but I hadn't thought of it since that time, because it doesn't come up that often, I guess, in your interviews and stuff, because it's more of like a hyper specific scenario that's not in the book, for example. And he was like, yeah man, he like sent him a fucking picture or something. It was like, I just fucked your girl in my Gucci flip-flops. And then now the joke is every Christmas or something, he tells his brother, he's like, hey, I'm gonna get you Gucci flip-flops for Christmas.
Oh, that's fucking ruthless. So I mean, you know, the story was basically, I met this chick at Coachella. And I can actually send you the chapter, which I deleted. It's kind of funny because I have like...
send it. I'm going to show Jeremy.
I have her like the screenshots of like her messages to me, which makes it a lot more funny. But anyway, so it started, I met her at Coachella, and then I basically like wanted to bang her. She's like hooking up with me a little bit, but not really. And then I was like, look, I could fuck you in the helicopter, but like I'm leaving. You know, I don't have a, you know, I don't know if you've been to Coachella, but it's like a motherfucker to get anywhere. Everything's so crowded. And I was like, yeah, you know, we could fuck in the helicopter, but other than that, like I'm out. And she's like, oh, maybe next time in LA or something, whatever. She got my number. Didn't hear from her. 3 months later, I'm at Electric Zoo in New York, and I'm like hosting this, whatever the fuck it was, some festival thing or whatever. They paid me to go there and gave me a table and whatever. So I get a text, and it's like, oh, my boyfriend is, you know, richer than you. He's got a bigger dick. He's fucking.
And what prompted that? Because you didn't bang her, or like what?
No, this is from him. So but it's from her number, right? And it's like he owns a thing. He started a company. It's bodybuilding.com. Like it's just like all this nonsense. And then like a picture. I don't know. So I'm just like, I don't even know how I responded. The text messages are in the chapter, but like then he goes on to like be like, oh, I don't know. I think I said something to her like talking shit, like, you know, like you got buck teeth, you look like a squirrel, like fuck off or something, right? And then he goes in and like continues this thing on, but he's like talking as him now on her phone, and then like sends a picture of her like laying out, or I forget what the fuck it was. I think I just sent him a picture of my dick and told him to fuck off. Like it was like the end of the conversation. I was like just tired of this nonsense. And then 3 months later, I get a text from the chick like, hey, like I want to come fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh God, this retard again, right? And then I'm like.
And the thing right above on the chat, I'm assuming, is the conversation.
Yeah. I can show you the messages. It's fucking hilarious. And so then I'm like, send pics. So she like sends me a bunch of naked pictures of herself. Yeah. I'm like, okay, like if you come out here, like you could stay at a hotel and like I might fuck you or something. It was like very like kind of like standoffish or whatever. She's like, okay, like I'm coming out. I left her in a hotel for like 2 days, and it's like 3 a.m, and she's like, oh, like I don't know. I think you can see the text. It's like pretty fucking funny. But anyways, I finally end up banging her after like 2 or 3 days of her being in a hotel, and she like wants this picture of her on my bed, like in lingerie with this gun. I was like, okay, fine, take a couple pictures. Send her on her way. Then it's like, I don't know, man. Like 2 months later, I get a text like, "This is the worst sex of my life." Like,
wait, how many months later?
I think it was like 2 months, maybe a month or something.
It's like such a weird timeline. Like,
I know.
It's so like broken up.
It's very weird, and you can see it in the text.
Like every time,
they have
I
the
can
times.
imagine you getting it and be like, "What?
Like what the fuck?" Right?
Yeah.
And then like, you know, goes on and on again, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I didn't. Like I was like assume that it's this fucking retard, but like either way I was like irritated that I had to deal with this stuff.
Yeah.
So then I like post a picture of the flip flops, or I post a picture of her on the bed. I don't know what it was, something like I fucked your bitch or whatever. Like leave me the fuck alone. He goes crazy. He's like, I'm gonna have more Instagram followers. I'm not telling the story nearly as good as I did when I wrote it. But anyways, it's like I'm gonna have more followers than Dan by like such and such a date, like 6 months. He gave himself to get like I don't know how many millions of fucking whatever. It's like this guy's so delusional. And I think at the time I had like 16 million followers or something. It was like this guy's like literally like fucking on another planet. And he like did some Tesla giveaway, which was like the car that he gave her. He was like said he was gonna give away to people that followed him. It was this whole crazy thing. And then I posted the Gucci flip-flops picture. And then...
Is it still up if people like dug hard?
I deleted it because I felt bad. And I tagged him, and like everybody's going in on his page like, Gucci makes a hell of a flip-flop, Dan fucked your bitch. Like just ripping him up. And he's got like all these pictures. It's all like him and this girl holding hands like on the beach, like all this shit. And so then he like posted my phone number. It was like this whole fucking war. And... I finally got the story from her. She like called me 2 days later. She's like, oh, I was on a plane with him to like France, and he just like wouldn't let it go. Like he just kept asking like, who fucked you better? Like whose dick was bigger? Like all this shit, like kept asking this bitch.
And is he supposed to be in a monogamous relationship with her the whole time, or she's like in an open...
Well, they had broken up when she came to fuck me, and then she got back with him.
And just like ate his mind alive.
What's it?
Just ate his mind
alive.
He
couldn't handle it. He just kept asking her all these questions, and then I guess she just like answered them honestly, and the goo went fucking crazy, and they had to like restrain him on the plane. They like cut him off with the alcohol. He like started texting me, then he broke her phone, like left her in France, like this whole crazy thing.
And you're just there at home, just like watching it unfold.
Bro, it was so ridiculous. And then I was just like, I don't know, man. Like the whole thing was fucking nuts. But and then there was like press articles about the whole thing. It was like really bad for him. Yeah. But it was like kind of a funny story. I thought it was like really hilarious, especially when you included the text messages in there. And I don't know. I just felt like, I don't know. My girlfriend talked me out of putting it in there. I just felt like there was just like so much stuff in the book. Maybe I should have left it in.
But, no, yeah, that was a good one, dude.
Yeah. So that was.
Well, it's a good thing you guys are getting the story here if you haven't heard it. So.
It was just funny because he totally brought it on himself.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was talking to Jeremy, I could tell the tone of it was like he was not like he thought it was hilarious, and it's his brother. I'm like I don't know the context really because I'm like,
dude, I was like a fly on the wall, man. I didn't give a fuck about this chick.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? He like brought her up, sending me pictures of her in a bikini, like bragging about himself, putting his website, putting his Instagram up there. It was just like so fucking strange. And then, like I said, she just like literally hit me up, like, I want to come fuck you. And I was like, okay, fine. You know, it was like, it was literally like, that was it. And banged the chick, you know, a couple times and sent her on her way. And then I fucking continuously hear from this guy.
Isn't it weird how guys like that will blame the dude when it's like the chick herself who like did everything?
Dude,
it's
I've been saying this for years.
What kind of quality are you with that is doing this?
I've been saying this for years. It's like if you're with a hot girl, all these guys are going to be trying to fuck her. I was like the one guy that wasn't proactively trying to fuck her. I wasn't texting her. I didn't give a shit. I would have never seen her again in a fucking million years if it hadn't been for this fucking idiot, right?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, man, like a girl has to police herself. And if she can't, then like, you know, you could fuck her, but she shouldn't be your girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's like on you to like screen that kind of thing. It's you. If anything, you help reveal that she's like terrible for him.
I would want to know.
And he's like needs to go to fucking therapy or something.
Definitely needs therapy
because he's
sure.
definitely not secure enough to be like even fucking dating any quality of women, I feel like, to begin with.
Yeah, super fucking strange, man.
Yeah, that was a funny one. The circling back to the like okay, so one thing you recommend in the book is going to the military as a teenager before you go to college. So you're kind of like, you know, set up more when you get into college from a age standpoint, infrastructure standpoint, from like a financial means. You get all of these like exemptions from, you know, costs of college, which is like exorbitant now. You don't have like you don't get like it's free entirely, or what is it?
Pretty much, man. They like pay for all your shit, and then also like you just don't have any fucking like obligation. Like, you know, whatever your fucking parents made, that's irrelevant. You're completely independent. So you're basically a homeless kid. You qualify for everything.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is, like, you just have 4 years to fuck around without consequences. Like, most guys go to college, they want to party the freshman year, their sophomore year, but then that ends up hurting their GPA, and then they have to pay for it for the rest of their life. This gives you 4 years to kind of, like, operate with impunity, and then come there, and you also get into a better college because you're military, and, you know, they want diversity and that whole thing. So it's actually got a lot of benefits, and I think you're more mature. You're also just going to get laid a lot more as a 22-year-old than you are as an 18-year-old.
Yeah, no one wants to fuck an 18-year-old guy as even an 18-year-old girl. She wants a 22-year-old.
Exactly, and for good reason, you know. 18-year-old's not going to bang her good.
It's funny because I remember when I was doing the whole PUA thing and got into it at like 20-ish, and I would finally getting laid and starting to get quality women, or at least, you know, I perceived at the time these girls were, you know, hot enough at least.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of their quality, I was just stoked to get girls who I thought were like really attractive. And then sometimes I was like, oh, you know, this is great. You know, I'm great at fucking. I'm like this jack guy because I was like sauced out of my tree at the time. Everything was like lined up that I thought mattered. Yeah. Like my game's on point. I have like this rotation. I'm not dependent on stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes I just fall off and I'd be like, what the fuck did I do? And I didn't realize there was guys who are older than me and have all these other things set up that are taking these chicks from me on the back end. And you wouldn't even, at the time, you can't even wrap your head around it because you're like, I did nothing wrong. Like I fucked you like perfectly.
Yeah.
You came, I look great. I have a like sick game. I do this. I do that. Like, what the fuck's going on?
On paper, it's like we're
I know,
fucking
and it almost like you almost get compelled at the time. And I never did it, but I was almost compelled to like text some of the ones who ghosted me and be like, "Why did you like leave?" You know, like, and they won't tell you. But I mean, like,
it's funny though, man. Like a lot of the stuff, you know, as I got older, I realized like a lot of the stuff that matters to guys, girls don't really care that much about. You know, like being jacked. I feel like for guys, like I give a fuck about it. I've always cared about it. Like
anything more than like you now is just for dudes.
Yeah, 100%.
Chicks.
100%. You know, like the guns, the cars, like all that shit. It's like all stuff that guys, you know, being a Navy SEAL, perfect example. I thought that was like the fucking gate in. You could fuck any chick because that's badass, and like what chick wouldn't want to fuck a Navy SEAL? Bro, I had buddies that were had been in the teams for like 10 years and shit, guys that had been through training, at my parties. Chicks referred to him as the fucking Marine 2 minutes later. They didn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? These guys didn't get no pussy. It was just like, it was funny because, all the guys were like, oh, that's fucking awesome, bro. Yeah. But the chicks, like, they couldn't care less.
I know a lot of guys, and this is something I was kind of tangenting to with that, talking about the 18-year-old going to the military and setting himself up, is a lot of guys think if they just grind their face off and get rich in their 20s, then by the time they're rich and then they start actually trying to date girls, I'm like, everything's set up on the back end from a financial structure to like be appealing to them, but they don't realize all the other stuff that matters and how like little, like, yeah, sure, it matters to be financially like independent at least and be able to like do stuff and be like out of your parents' house. But from like comparing the, I don't know, guy who makes $100,000 to a guy who makes like 2 million versus a guy who makes whatever, if they're like some nerd dweeby fucking guy who's socially inept and sucks at talking, isn't charismatic, has no experience in life whatsoever, he's just like grinding his face off on Bitcoin and NFTs for 10 years and makes a shit ton of money, he doesn't really succeed with women compared to the guy who's like, has a normal job but is like, has all this other stuff taken care of, I feel like.
100%, man. And I see it all the time. Like these crypto guys are a perfect example. Like they don't have the true confidence, and they'll have the money, but it just doesn't translate.
They feel like they beat the game when they get rich, but it's like they haven't
even
talked to a girl yet.
Yeah, they expect it all to come, but it's just one of the tools in your toolbox. Like you still have to be confident. You still have to fuck the chick good. Like you still have to be able to carry a conversation. Like you have to have some kind of fucking charisma. Like girls have to want to hang out. There's a whole thing, right? And so I feel like those are the guys that, have the chicks on the payroll, and my buddies are the ones banging the chicks. You know what I'm saying? Like those guys are paying for all the shit, taking them on dates while, they're fucking, the fucking, plumber, or whatever, the fucking construction worker. Like, I don't know. It just seems like there's different types of dating. I mean, LA is like, man, it's really regressed. It's like just full sugar daddy fucking, sugar baby shit now. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like almost every chick in LA, it seems like it's fucking for money now. It's crazy.
I actually have a quote from Chris. You told him back in like 2010 or something. I don't know. Do you remember Chris, by the way? Like we just talked to him briefly on the phone. I can
Chris
pull up
Dwayne,
Yeah, let me see if you...
He was like, I think he was like an Asian guy. I remember he was like...
He's half Greek, half Japanese. Yeah. Do you have Wi-Fi I can connect to, by the way?
You have a what?
Wi-Fi I can connect to?
Quick side tangent to bring you a quick note from one of our sponsors. This is Magic Spoon. As you guys have probably seen many times on the channel at this point, Magic Spoon is one of the forefront integrators into our videos and whatnot. And the reason being is their cereal is fucking bomb. It's something I literally bought before I had, a reasonably sized channel with any reach whatsoever. I would drive over the border to my P.O. box to get a bunch of random shit when I'd be on my way to LabCorp to get blood work done because Canada can't get good fucking blood work done. Fucking ridiculous. But that's besides the point. So when I was in the States getting my blood work, I'd always go to the P.O. box and pick up stuff that was cheaper to ship to the P.O. box than over the border. And one of those things was always my cheat food of choice, which wasn't really a cheat food, the Magic Spoon cereal. So this is something I could eat pretty much guilt-free and get my, sweet tooth sort of satisfied. And reason being is the very, very body composition friendly macros, especially for guys who are looking for high protein too. So the kind of breakdown of it is per serving, 0 grams of sugar. Yes, you will not get loaded with fucking sugar when you eat this stuff. 13 to 14 grams of protein per serving, only 4 net grams of carbs, and about 140 calories, depending on the flavor of choice. It's also keto friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low carb. So for me, reason I thought it was so great is because it was pretty damn close to what you would get from a junky cereal that is way more sugar loaded, way more calorie dense, and otherwise pretty much impossible to hit your daily macro allotment goals while simultaneously hitting your protein needs when eating it. Like if you're gonna have fill in the blank brand of very good tasting sugar dense cereal, you are not going to be getting almost any protein whatsoever. You're going to be getting a fuck ton of sugar and a fuck ton of calories, and you're probably going to feel really guilty about it after because you are otherwise going to need to slam some sort of protein dense meal after and push your calories even higher to hit your concurrent protein goals after you've already loaded yourself with the calorie dense, sugar dense cereal. And then you have to eat the protein on top of that. So you're like doubling up your calorie burden for the day just to get away with eating the cereal you wanted to get away with. So for this, it was kind of like a 2 birds, 1 stone thing where I could have, a shit ton of it on my cheat days and feel not really guilty at all. And on my normal days, I could kind of integrate it around my workouts and whatnot and actually get my protein in simultaneously whilst concurrently getting something that's like a frosted, which is pretty close to what you would otherwise taste with, other frosted, traditional brands in the industry that are seen as, junky though. Things like blueberry. The blueberry is fucking unreal. Cinnamon. I'm actually literally out right now because I've eaten so much of it at this point. Very, very good flavor. Highly recommend. Fruity. Closest thing you will get to, you can probably imagine what it's pretty damn close to. The loops you'd get as a kid. It's pretty damn close, honestly. Peanut butter. Tastes exactly like peanut butter. Exactly what you'd expect. The fact that it has 0 sugar at the same time, you're getting your 14 grams of protein per serving. Pretty goddamn great in my opinion. Cocoa, really, really good. Have it in some almond milk to keep the calorie sensible. And you're pretty much having a dessert for breakfast or whatever time of day you decide to have it. And you don't have to feel like you've totally betrayed yourself once you eat it. So that is the main reason why I like it and why I used to get it before this brand even integrated into the channel. So if you guys have seen some of my old integrations, I've put up like receipts showing, old purchases I made and whatnot. But at this point, they're a pretty staple brand that I'd recommend for if you're looking for a reasonable, macro-friendly way to hit your sweet tooth needs whilst concurrently hitting your protein goals for the day. So if you want to support me, support the channel, as well as brands that otherwise, put their neck out to integrate into my videos and whatnot, click the link below to get some Magic Spoon cereal today. You can build your very own variety box and use my code Derek to get $5 off. Some of their best sellers are cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cookies and cream, maple waffle, and they have some other more like niche, unique flavors that are really good. And to be honest, the niche ones are kind of my favorites right now. This is the blueberry, like I said, pretty ridiculous. And the cinnamon, I mentioned the cinnamon pretty much every goddamn video at this point because it's absurd. And they actually just came out with gingerbread, which I have yet to try, but I am looking forward to it. I just asked to get some sent to me literally in an email about 5 minutes ago. So hopefully I have that soon and I can enjoy some of that over the holidays and get in the festive spirit by slamming some gingerbread cereal whilst hitting my protein needs, bro. So anyways, if you want to check it out, they have a 100% happiness guarantee. Get your money back if you're not super, super happy once you eat it. And click the link below, use the code Derek, $5 off. Like I said, magicspoon.com/Derek is the link. And for my Canadian and British fans, they now ship to Canada and the UK. Whereas previously, you literally had to drive over to a P.O. box like I used to years ago. But that is no longer the case, fortunately. So anyways, check it out. Obviously, a company that's been supportive of me long-term. So it definitely helps give back when you guys purchase their stuff. And it's something that I have been regularly consuming for numerous years at this point. So check it out. And back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Let's see. I'm just seeing if I can pull up a picture of Bert as well. See if you remember him.
Bert Bear. Yeah. He was just like the full meathead dude, right?
Yeah. Seems like there's only like competition photos that I can find online though, but I'm sure you remember the dude. Like this is USA Muscle from let's see, this fucking guy.
No, yeah, I do. It's been so long, but yeah, no, I definitely remember.
So was he was your training partner or Chris's training partner? Do you know?
I think I trained with him. I never really like.
He was like Mr. Tampa apparently.
Yeah, I never really like did training partners too much because I had kind of like a hybrid routine, and then I always had like these narrow windows when I wanted to work out because of my meals. And at the time, I was like running probably 40 miles a week, and then I was doing like.
Yeah, this was Chris back in college.
Yeah, big arm Asian guy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, he went to like fucking 6 or 7 different colleges, I think, too.
Really?
Yeah, one of them, it's funny, he actually pretended he isn't native at all. He's half Greek, half Japanese, but he said he was native to get into some like law school, and they like bought it. And
oh, really? They didn't do any background on it?
No, nothing. Because I guess like, again, sort of like the, I don't know if it's like the same, obviously not to the same extent as like the transsexual sports thing, but it's like having an allotment of a certain race in your like job or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like you feel like you have to include certain people even if they're less qualified. Like I don't know, in firefighters, like we need a certain amount of girls. Even
100%.
if a chick's actually better than the dudes applying, I get it. But if it's like we just need an allotment of like, I don't know, white people, black people, Asian people, this, that, and this many women, or else we're like racist, we're like sexist.
Which is so fucking stupid because it's like, you know, you don't see that in the NBA, right? It's like 90-something percent black with 13% of the population.
Where's all your fucking short white guys?
Yeah,
you know?
like they don't just add, you know, the random fucking. So it's like it's okay, like it's fine to have like racial disparity in certain fucking things. Like everything doesn't have to be an exact fucking.
No. Yeah, I feel like it's almost like lack of maturity when they like take that shit seriously. You know, like you're literally willing to compromise potentially somebody's life in a fire. To like,
how about the military, man? Like you know, they're letting there too, I guess. Yeah, I mean, like you have a woman. It's like, you know, a combat loadout could be fucking 80, 100 pounds. It's like, what chick can carry a fucking 80, 100 pound combat loadout and then fucking haul a guy out that's just got shot that weighs fucking 200 pounds with another 100 pounds on his fucking back? Like, no girl's fucking dragging 400 pounds out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like.
So how do they get past that stage, or do they?
Well, I mean, they just set different standards. Which is
they like lowered the thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So which is fucked up. You know, it's like. Look, man, if somebody can compete, you know, like let them fucking, you know, let them compete. I mean, I don't think like women should be in special forces in general just because like of the logistics of it. It's like, you know, you're out on an op. It's like sex shouldn't be on your mind. You know, like you should be able to fucking, you know, change without worrying about it. Now, like you have to have 2 bathrooms. It's just like there's so many logistical issues. And then like, what if one of the guys starts banging her? Or, you know, are they gonna be more likely to fucking compromise something to save a woman? It's just like. There's just shit that you don't need to be thinking about, you know? And it affects, like, what you can talk about, too. I mean, I don't know. I just think there's, you know, there's a time and a place for, you know, equal opportunities. And it's, you know, most places, there's just certain, you know, segments where, you know, like, for instance.
The fucked up thing is how this would be considered controversial opinion. You know?
Yeah, which is crazy because it's just fucking logic, right? It's like a man should not be fighting a woman in the MMA. Like, 3 years ago, everybody would be like, yeah, if a man hits a woman, that's fucked up. But now it's like now this. Now he's beating the fucking shit out. You know, there's some ex-special forces guy that like wants to transition, which is fine. Let him transition, but it doesn't mean he should go beat the shit out of women, right? Yeah. Like, you know, I don't know. I mean, there's certain things that I think seem obvious on the surface, but because everybody's like so worried about being canceled or politically correct that they sacrifice logic, you know, to appease the mob, and I just won't do it.
Okay, so I was actually going to talk about the so setting up yourself from like a financial aspect or whatever. Like obviously you get the free schooling if you go to the military, or at least it's like pretty much free relative to. And nowadays it's like the inflation of a degree, like how much it costs to go to classes, and a lot of them, frankly, you don't even fucking need for your job, like taking electives just to hit your unit requirements and stuff. Doesn't even make sense a lot of the time, but. If you're going through that period now, like, do you even think, aside from the experience of like being in college and like, you know, being around women and getting exposed to this environment that's like fun, if you could hypothetically recreate that on your own and just like, I don't know, like online dating is a pretty hyper efficient way if you're like a top tier male to like do this quickly as opposed to being in parties and shit. Do you still recommend school for anyone other than those who know what kind of job they want that requires a degree?
That's an interesting question. You know, it's
because your experience is based on a time you didn't have Tinder, you didn't have this, you didn't have that. If you're like a upper echelon dude, the most time efficient thing ever is get on Tinder Gold, you know, have a big fucking list of every chick that swiped on you and literally pick out a hat. And then you have them already kind of like pre-screened where you know they're interested at least in something like sexual/dating. And you're just like good to go.
It's funny, man. I've only fucked, I think, one chick off of Tinder. But not that I've really spent too much time on. I actually got kicked off Bumble 3 times for impersonating a celebrity. That was kind of funny.
That's wild.
Yeah, they guess they just didn't believe it was me, or I got reported. I don't know what the fuck, but I haven't really ever done the online dating much. You know, for me, you know, I fucked a lot of chicks off Instagram, but it's tough nowadays just because of the Photoshop, like the prevalence of this Photoshopping, like. I don't know, man. It's like
They have verification on the apps now where you actually have to take a picture of your face to match your photos.
Oh, really?
But it's like pretty vague. So you could still like...
Because they're face tuning videos now. Like videos, they can actually like...
Just hire a fucking CGI guy, pay him a few $1,000 and just...
Facetune does it. Facetune, they have apps that just do it. Like they'll suck your waist in, they'll make your lips bigger. Like so you can actually get catfishing in videos. That should be illegal, dude. It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
Should be.
Do you like FaceTime chicks first just to get like just be like, oh, I just want to chat and like get a feel for like, you know, but you're actually kind of like screening if their face looks correct?
You know, this is probably the first time in a while where I've actually been kind of like dating a little bit. So prior to Ignite, like this whole thing kind of took off in like 2014 when I kind of like stopped gambling and I made all this fucking money. And I was like transitioning to the Instagram thing. There was like a year when I was kind of doing both the poker and the Instagram. And then after that, I just like really focused on just doing bucket list shit. And then, you know, like documenting it when we could. And it was fucking crazy, dude. That was probably the craziest time because I was partying a lot.
Yep.
And we didn't really give a fuck about the content. We didn't have a company to promote. It was like none of that stuff. So, you know, I had shit, dude. It was just nuts. I mean, because we would go out to the club with so many fucking girls, and then we would grab a ton of girls, and I had, you know, this camera guy that he would like rally up a bunch of girls, and we would come back to the house, and it'd just be me and him and 30 girls, and it was just like mayhem, dude, all the time because there was so many hot girls running around naked doing all this shit. It was like you literally could just like pick a girl. I mean, it was like crazy. And so I did that for a while. And then there would be times when I would have like 5-6 girls staying with me and I'd be fucking every chick in the house. You know, I'd like, you know, it was nuts. And because of that, like any girl that you saw, like just grabbing them was super easy. And it was like the game was so simple too, because like you'd see a girl in a club and there'd be a bunch of hot chicks all over you and you'd see her looking at you, you know, and you kind of like lock eyes with her a little bit. And then like, she'd eventually come over, you go to her, whatever, and then just like I'd just be like, hey, give me your phone. I put my number in there, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Or I'd like, you know, check like, you know, whatever, save my number as fucking, you know, like booty call or something, you know, whatever, and call it, or you know, it was just like the least effort, and then you would always bang those chicks, and like I found that the less like interaction you had with them, because like girls a lot of times like build you up in their mind, you know, or like, you know, guys, girls, whatever, they'll have this like crazy perception of who you are. And you can like, nobody can ever really live up to the percent. Like Leo, you know, DiCaprio, when you meet him, like he's never going to live up to like what you think he's going to be like in your mind. Like celebrities are just people, dude. Like just because you're famous doesn't mean you're fucking any different. Like you're just a guy that like got noticed or like got recognized or whatever. You're really good at one thing. Like it doesn't mean you're some fucking like superstar. Like you're just a guy that is well known, right? And because of that, like you get pretty confident and you fuck a lot of girls and there's like a lot of cool shit that happens along the way. But you're just a fucking human being, you know what I mean? Like, but in a girl's mind, like when they see a celebrity, it's like, I don't know, man, you're just like built up so much. Guys too. It's like this weird thing, and it's like subconsciously programmed in because like there's so much emphasis on being famous and what that means, you know? And so, you know, I found that like the least amount of interaction possible was like, it was a guarantee. Like it was like an absolute lock. Like they'd show up at your house, you'd fuck them. I had girls like, you know, texting me like to come over and be like, hey, like, you know, I only got 30 minutes. Like, I want you to just like, you know, show up to my room in a fucking skirt, no underwear, you know, topless or whatever. It'd like tell them like what to do. They'd literally show up at your door. And I said like, didn't have to say anything to them and like you'd be fucking, you know, and then afterwards you could have a conversation if you wanted. But like the time from like meeting to fucking, it was like the minimum. I found everything else to be counterproductive. And so, and also then you're kind of like in on a secret. Like if she sees you like with another girl, she doesn't know if that's your girlfriend or whatever. But like anytime there's like some kind of secret that you both share, it's like, I don't know, it makes it more exciting for them too. Like before I kind of like, you know, morally decided that I wasn't going to like fuck people's girlfriends. That was like the easiest thing ever. It was like banging chicks that had boyfriends, and they would do fucking crazy shit too. Like, oh my God.
So hypothetically, let's just say you're a guy who's not in your insanely leveraged position from like, you check all the boxes from financial means, of this, of that, social clout, etc. You're back in college now, but it's modern day. Do you still think it's worth the time investment?
Yeah, no, I never really addressed that question. Kind of went off
like maybe it's an unfair question because it's not like you're there.
It's it's a good question. It's not one that I've really thought about, so I'd have to think for a minute. I guess
because it's hard to not feel like you're missing out too. Like I'm just thinking of me. If I knew what I knew now about entrepreneurship, social media, the importance of all these things, and I'm in the fucking military at 18 for 4 years or something. I'm like, God damn, that's like almost half a decade. And then I go to school for another almost half a decade.
No, I hear what you're saying. It's definitely a valid point. I guess, like, for me, I just had no idea what I wanted to do at 18.
And it's not like there was Instagram back when you were...
No, there was none of that shit, you know? So it's like I had no idea what I wanted to do. And back then, you kind of had to get a degree to do anything. The reason I ended up dropping...
They were way more impactful back then, I feel like, than they are now.
I think, like, the reason why I would recommend college for guys is just because of the experience. Because, like, you're around such a higher caliber of girl that's in college that's also similar to your age, that you both have something in common. Like, a girl that's in college is probably more likely to be, like, getting a real job, intelligent, you know, all these things.
So it's like a screening tactic almost.
It kind of is. And then also, like, just the ability to get laid in college, I feel like is almost unparalleled outside of, like, fame and fucking money together, right? Like, I got laid in college so fucking much. It was absurd and with, like, such little effort. And I learned a lot, you know? And it was also, like, hot chicks that were cool and smart, you know? And you're also around a bunch of like-minded guys as well.
You make like lifelong good quality friends that cannot be overstated the value of.
Yeah.
Like, even like hearing your excitement when I was on the call with you talking about some of the, you know, the guys from the fraternity and whatnot, and Chris like bringing up some of the old stuff.
Yeah.
Like you can tell that shit like clicks with you almost in a way that's like nowadays if somebody meets you from scratch, it's like, oh, you know, they know you just because you have a fuck ton of money or your clout or whatever, but like you still like highly value those experiences that like build the infrastructure of who you are. And you like,
and you learn like more about people when you go through shit with them. You know, like going through boot camp, going through SEAL training. Like you form a bond with people that's different than if you just see them day to day. Like when you see somebody in a stressed out situation, when they fucking have a broken leg and they're fucking hypothermic and they're fucking in pain and they're doing all this shit, it's like you see true to their core a lot more than you do in just like an office setting, you know? And so you form different bonds there. And I think the fraternity was pretty cool in the sense that like there's a camaraderie and a brotherhood that like the military is a lot stronger than that, obviously, but you know, not everybody's going to go in the fucking military, but it's just, I don't know, for a guy that doesn't really know what he wants to do, I think it's kind of a cool environment to kind of feel it out, you know? And I think like people are going so heavily online. I think there's no substitute for like human interaction, and I feel like people are getting away from that more.
Yeah, I feel like people are becoming like weirdos because they're just like born in a time. Like even now, the up and coming teenagers, I like feel bad for that they didn't have this like hybrid where it's like when you're coming up, you had like a normal life with like normal experiences in person with people, and then you got the transition to social media after you've kind of like built the foundation of like a real personality, real life experience, hardship, etc., rather than people who are just like fucking silver plattered everything nowadays, sit at home and just like do fucking NFTs and social media stuff. Like it's a lot different in terms of the character you build and like your even ability to communicate effectively. I think in business meetings, presentations, etc. Like you can tell who's done like actual shit versus who's like some weird kid who's been sitting in his, you know, computer room the whole time.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think social media is a big piece, but I also think smartphones are an even bigger piece. Like I think this phone is the biggest distraction to humans, like hands down. Like if you look at your like phone usage, like how much time people spend staring at that screen, and then you go to a party and see and everybody's on their phone, either looking at their phone or, you know, taking a video for something that's on their phone. You know what I mean? It's like they're so distracted.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed over the past couple of days even is like me, the amount of times I go in just to like look at Instagram, but I can't even fucking log in right now because I'm banned, which hopefully is not going to happen by the time this come out. I hope it gets reversed somehow. But anyways, like I'm more checking myself like, oh shit, you've tried to check it like 7 times and you can't even get in. Yeah. You know? You're just going to your phone for like no reason. And you would have ended up burying like a half hour on the toilet, like going through shit if you made it in there.
No, I mean, I really noticed it when I made a bet with my buddy Bill. We did, for every hour that we did, I think we gave ourselves 35 hours a week. I believe it was like 5 hours a day was what we allowed ourselves. And for every hour that we went beyond that, it was a $10,000 penalty.
And that sounds so reasonable.
Like he like owed me, he paid me over $1 million like in a month. So it was like so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was funny because you don't realize like how much time you're on there just by default, you know, whether it's checking emails and all this shit. And then just like what a life drain that is. And then also there's like the blue light thing, there's the sleep, there's like all sorts of negative implications from it.
It's really hard to not look at it before going to bed.
It is, dude, because it's so much stimulus and it's right there, your fingerprint. I truly believe that that's one of the reasons why people have anxiety today, so much more so. Why it's like so much more prevalent today is because you're so overstimulated that like when you don't have your phone and you don't have this massive stimulation, it's almost like your brain's like going, but there's not enough stimulus to like satisfy it.
Yeah, like the fact that TikTok has blown up to the degree it has, I think just shows how disconnected people are with real shit now, where they can literally only have an attention span the length of like a 5-second clip. And it's just like mindlessly zombie scrolling through this like feed that's just like the most viral shit for 5 seconds. And anything more than that is too much of like a time suck for my brain to even like adhere to it.
We saw it when I would do my videos for Instagram. If you didn't catch someone in the first 3 seconds, that was it. So like, a lot of these guys would like want to do these videos like, cinematography where it's like the build up. And I'm like, no, dude, first 3 seconds, you have to hook them or you lose them. And you would see it in the engagement. Cause I posted like, some badass videos, like really cool. Where like, wake surfing and a bunch of hot chicks and all this fun stuff. And like only got 8 million views because the first few seconds were like more like panoramic kind of shots versus like 42 million views for something that like catches you right off, and it's like, it's, fucking 5x. I mean, it's a, big difference. So
what do you do when you're trying to focus? Like you're writing your book and you have your phone blowing up probably. You put it on airplane mode and like chuck it across the room?
That's a good question. When I was doing the book, I was very fortunate because of the, the whole fucking pandemic bullshit. So because of that, there wasn't quite as much going on. And then I got a girlfriend at the time too. So I like cut off a lot of girls, which kind of fucked me a little bit because like I had a huge rotation and I pissed.
But maintaining that, could you have even wrote your fucking book?
No, definitely not. But like the fact that I just like fully cut them pissed them off. So like, because usually you kind of like can get back or whatever.
I feel like it's more people really think that the rotation is such like a amazing. Like it can be great to have options, of course, but I mean like if you're maintaining the volume you did. I don't think on paper it sounds great to the average guy who's like, oh my god, so many hot chicks, like so much variety, so much options, I just fuck all day. But it's like that's the point. You're doing like so much fucking and so much like texting and so much whatever. Like how do you even progress in like entrepreneurial stuff?
It's precisely it, dude.
Yeah,
it's just a fucking massive drain of your time and energy, and it's not worth it.
In business, when you're single, it's like a full-time job doing that. Like,
dude, people don't realize how much time they actually spend trying to attract the opposite sex or fuck the opposite. It's like a fucking massively disproportionate amount of time. And so to me, it's like, man, I think the answer is just to like not need it and be happy on your own. Because like for me, I did it because it set me up to where like I had so many options that I didn't care. And because I didn't care, I never got attached to any girls. And B, I was able to get so many more girls because of that attitude. But it wasn't worth it. And I think you can achieve the same thing by just not needing it.
Yeah.
Because that's really like at the end of the day, what you do, like the bigger rotation for is to like make it so you really truly don't fucking need it.
Yeah.
But like you can do that by just like reducing the amount of sex that you like perceive that you need to have.
Yeah. For me, the most I ever progressed was in 2020, around maybe similar to you and to a lower extent, but I had a long-term relationship I was in for 2.5 years. It wasn't a rotation, but like I was like dialed in with something that was cemented and that infrastructure is great because you can actually progress in business quite well when you have like one chick at your side. You don't have to worry about a ton of stuff. Not for everyone, but anyway. So that ended up that was a breakup that happened for me back in like June 2020. And at that point, I was like, there was so much shit going on. And at the time, you couldn't even like go on a date because where I lived, there was like everything was shut down and you were supposed to be stuck in your house.
Yeah.
To a point where I was like, okay, I know how much my time puts out when I put into work, like what my ROI is like. I'm just gonna like disproportionately work my face off and not fuck for like whenever the shit lets up.
Yeah.
That was what I was gonna do. I ended up grinding for like 9 months straight and I didn't fuck once. And then
it's super productive.
But I feel like you can only do that though and get away with it knowing that when you get back into it, you're so like disproportionately leveraged compared to like your competition that you can just get right back into whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the options are there when you pull the trigger.
Well, I think also like that you don't need it if you can go 9 months. Like I was like a full blown sex addict, so I didn't even know if I could do it. Like I kicked a lot of addictions when I was writing that book, which was good for me mentally.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, man, if I didn't fuck 3 different girls a day, I felt like, man, you fucking loser. Like, what's going on? Like, it was just like, that was my like minimum. That was like my benchmark. It's like, you're 5 meals a day. I was like, fuck 3 times. Like, so, but the amount of time I just wasted, man.
No, like, I'm shocked you got anything done, dude. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, fuck.
Because that's like your energy level at the start of the day. You have a certain amount of allocation too. Like when I work out, I lose maybe like 30% of my mental capacity from like the investment into the workout.
I noticed that
fucking
in the
a
book
chick,
writing.
that's probably like 10 to 15%, I feel like, that I can't then put into something.
And especially for me, since I had to get high before I had sex most of the time to like really enjoy it, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why, but for me, like when I'm high, the sex feels so much better.
That's what I was going to ask about too, because it's like weed is seen as like the counterproductive, like literally to productivity drug that like dulls you and makes you a bit more like complacent, not, your drive is dulled quite significantly to a point that you're just kind of like satisfied. Your serotonin maybe is higher and you're just like chilling. Yeah. Versus the guys who are like on stimulants or like more like sympathetically driven and don't use things like weed. They're more like, get up and go and like get shit done. You found that you still needed to like, what is your opinion on that in general for?
I believe that I needed the weed to dumb myself down, to hang out with the girls and not be fucking bored, and like also to enjoy the sex and to have as much sex as I wanted. It was like, I don't know. But I used to be a big advocate of weed. I'm not anymore. I think you're just a better person and better. I think it's fine to smoke here and there. Yeah. But like I truly believe that weed is addictive, and I think that it's very fucking counterproductive for your life. I think a lot of people stay in shitty relationships because they smoke weed, because it allows you to like
be okay with like a subpar
100%. It's like it allows you to bring yourself down to the level of like whoever you're with, so you'll accept a lower intellect, not to mention that like you'll just put up with more shit, because most guys like, oh, if I fight with this girl, I'm not going to get laid tonight, or like, it's like all this stuff is like when you're high, you just want to get pussy, you want to watch a movie, you don't want to like do a lot, so you take the path of least resistance. What that does when you take the path of least resistance is it sets like, it sets up like with relationships. I feel like, how you start off a relationship kind of like sets a precedent.
Apparently
right?
My
and I
account
feel like
is back. Sorry.
What's that?
Apparently my account just got reinstated. I don't know.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. That was stressing me out a bit. All right, sorry, continue.
So yeah, I feel like that sets a precedent, and I feel like when you're high a lot in a relationship, you set bad precedents because you put up with more shit than you should, and so I think by doing that, it's like,
dude, how do you even deal with like connecting? So like you said, to dumb yourself down for these, these conversations that you otherwise may not find mentally stimulating, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself becoming like increasingly more disconnected as you get older from the chicks? Because it's like, presumably you want the chicks who are like in the prime of their youth and like look the best. And I think that's a totally reasonable thing. Yeah. Guys like Leonardo DiCaprio, same fucking deal. So, at one time they were in their 20s and banged 20-year-old girls, and now they're, 40 something and he's still hitting the same kind of chicks. So for you, is it like to the point where you have to like get so fucking high as you get older that it's just like more and more dumbed down to the point where you're like obliterating yourself just to sit with them?
I found, it's just funny, man. I found in my last relationship, she was fucking 19 years old. And it was funny because that was the first time I truly realized, like, I think I need to start dating older women. Like fucking young girls is fine, but like dating, I think a girl has to be at least 27 for me, minimum now. For me to be able, it's funny because when I was on Necker Island, I met Jewel, and it was like, when I met her, like a flip switched in my fucking brain. I was like, wow, this is what's possible with a woman. Like she was, like a great singer. She was super smart. Like when I talked to her, like it was crazy. Like I actually learned things. Like the chick had made like $350 million fucking selling records. So she was successful. There was like all this, and I'm like, man, like in the circles that I was running, it was all just like super hot young model chicks that obviously like didn't have the time on earth to, achieve even a tenth of this stuff, nor would they probably have even if they had the time. But like the point is, like, it kind of like really opened my eyes to what's out there. And so
you just need to find a hybrid where they're not like over the hill, but they're like have developed some level of like mental fucking development.
It's so tough, man, because like you want them young enough to where there's gonna be enough years where you're gonna really find them physically attractive.
Yeah.
Because sex is a big part of my life, you know. So it's like I'm in this weird spot where I don't know if I want to have like a main chick and then be able to fuck girls on the side, which the requirement for like what I'd want the main chick to be would be less, obviously much less than the requirement for me to like be in a monogamous relationship. And then like the question of like, is monogamy like really realistic long term, you know?
Yeah, it's the tough thing, dude. Because I feel like you're so self-aware at this point of like how desensitized you get to shit, how, you know, everything, the way like all your experience cumulatively has probably led you to this point where I can't, you know, you get bored, you know? So like, how do you fucking circumvent that?
It's tough,
You
man.
have like a main chick and then she's aware of you need like side shit and you just...
I'm fighting with that because like I don't know that there's a way, unless the girl's like bi and she's into girls, where it's not gonna fuck with her mentally.
Yeah, because like they'll say they're okay with it, I feel like, because like, oh, well, I gotta just do what he says or else I'm not gonna make it through the screening process to get him. But then at the same time in their head, they're getting like potentially like psychologically fucked up. Even if they say they're okay and everything's like fine on the surface, they're like bottling up some weird shit.
For sure. I mean, that
And you don't want
happened
to impose that on them either.
100%, man. That happened with Victoria in the book. You know, like she basically told me, like, just, you know, I want to be with you. I don't care. I'd rather be with you and you hook up with other girls than not be with you. And I want you to lie to me. But like, eventually that just, it wasn't healthy for her. And I knew that, you know, it was just hard for me to give it up because it's like this super hot fucking girl. We have amazing sex that refuses to even look at another dude, you know, and it's going to allow me to do what I want. But like, I just eventually, for her sake, just had to end it because it was just too selfish to stay with her because I just knew that would never bring her happiness. And I was never going to be with her because I didn't mentally connect with her the way I would need to stay with her. So it was tough. I dragged her through that for like 4 years, probably I did try and break up with her, to be fair, a few times. But yeah, it's a tough thing. I don't really know what I've been wrestling with that.
Yeah. How are you on time, by the way? I feel like I've taken up a lot of your time. It's up to you. It's up to you, dude. It's up to you. So
I got another like 20 or so, you know, if you got some more questions.
No, yeah, I could go all fucking day, dude. So it's kind of up to you.
Yeah, let's do another 20.
Okay, so one thing, as far as like, oh, by the way, laser hair removal for guys on gear, is it permanent or do you have to keep getting sessions and shit?
Bro, it is, for me, as a fucking part Armenian fucking juice monkey, it is absolutely not feasible. I mean, here's the problem. It's the best option.
Yeah. Like,
I bought 5 machines.
I used to like nair and like shave. Like the process is time consuming in itself.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like the process to shave, first of all, it takes a lot of time to shave your fucking body. You can't even like reach your goddamn back, right? So you got to have a chick shave your back. Then you got this full body 5 o'clock shadow by tomorrow or the next day, right? So then you're fucking prickly. So it's like, that's not really like a great alternative. Then waxing fucking sucks ass. You have to not only have to let the hair grow out to a length, but then it's like you get these ingrown hairs, all these fucking, you know, bumps, what irritates your skin. So that sucks, and it's painful as fuck.
Have you ever had the ball sack nair chemical burn?
No,
Ruthless.
Man. No,
Ruthless.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's not like there's a warning. Actually, maybe there's a warning on the bottle that says don't apply it to privates, but at the time you're like, well, I've covered everywhere else, and like, I'm trying to be time efficient here, so.
Yeah, balls are a pain in the ass, man, because like it's like so delicate to shave them.
Yeah.
You know?
You feel like a fucking like surgeon while you're in there. You're just like,
I just trim, man. I just try. I get like a, you know, one of those like the neck shavers that the barbers use. Yeah. And then I just, you know, try and trim. I also the laser works good on the nutsack.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You don't worry, but like I wouldn't know actually, to be honest, and you think I would, like what effect that might have on your like ball health, like laser right on it.
My nuts are about the size of that.
You don't use HCG with your test?
I do. I actually have been shooting it, you know. It's like I'm like torn because like I do like the fact that when you're not using it, you're like sterile. And I also kind of break out a little bit from HCG sometimes, and it aromatizes a little bit. So it's like, I don't know. I do it, but I don't know, man.
It's not like you need it ultimately, and like it's almost like a novelty thing almost, where it's like, how big do you want your ball sack?
Yeah,
You know? 'Cause
or,
you get
how small do you want to let it go?
Yeah,
So I've
exactly.
had girls be like, "Damn, you got kind of small nuts."
Have
like,
they said that to you?
I mean, because I'll bring it up, and then they'll agree. And usually they
You're
don't
just like
say it.
proactively, like, by the way, my nuts are pretty fucking small.
No, I'll
before
just
you,
joke about it,
Okay.
you know, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, you know."
Sometimes I've never like brought it up, but sometimes I wonder. I'm like, this is probably a pretty like. They're probably like, what the fuck's going on?
I just, nuts never really.
No, fortunately, it's not like a big deal, but it's like sometimes they're so like shrunken, and this might sound fucked up to people who don't do gear, that it like almost like goes into your body for a sec, and that's a bad scenario. Where like you're like, did I just lose my left nut into my fucking like, and you have to like pop it back out almost?
I've never had that, but I've had a pretty small, dude, where
Yeah.
it's just like, like a fucking coin purse.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The HCG thing is I don't know.
Or Clomid, I think you can take.
Yeah, yeah. The porn star stacks are pretty different than you're probably. I don't know. Most people are probably used to hearing. I'm surprised you didn't use much like different drugs to kind of like, I don't know, support your sex escapades. Because like, there's a lot of drugs you could have used that you didn't. Like your just Cialis test. Like there's shit you could have used to like reduce your refractory period when you were like trying to like hit like a new goal of like, I don't know, like beat 9 in a day and try and get that 10.
Yeah,
know?
I don't, and it's crazy because I did it with condoms too, which is really fucking nuts. But with
Well, like kudos for fucking sticking with that too.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal, dude. If you just do it every time,
I guess.
Like recently, I've been a fucking total scumbag. I haven't used a fucking, but like it's either all or nothing. Like you just use them every fucking time, and then you don't really remember.
I think a lot of guys don't realize they're like, why do I have ED when I fuck? Like because they're first of all the condom. If you're not used to it, obviously difficult to deal with to begin with. But a lot of guys are so used to yanking it, watching porn with like this hyper aggressive like vice grip, and then they're in a pussy with a condom and they're going limp and they're like wondering what's wrong with me, and they think it's something that's the chick, they get insecure about it too, and then they think there's something wrong with them. Is like, am my pussy too loose or what's going on? And it like fucks up relationships. I feel like guys watching porn just like yanking it too much.
Yeah, no, I could see that. And then they're probably just banging the same chick. I don't know, man. For some reason, I was just lucky in that category. I just always was pretty. I mean, granted, obviously in the book I talk about, you're gonna have fucking your embarrassing fucking moments. Yeah. And the funny thing for me is, a lot of times I'd have my embarrassing moments was directly correlated with the fucking girls that I really liked. Like the ones that I really liked, I would fuck up. But yeah, I think a lot of it's in your head, And for me, like for so much of it, the time, I just had so much abundance that I didn't care that much. And since there wasn't, and also like I was taking Cialis, I'm like, oh, I gotta see. It just wasn't even like a thought that like my dick wasn't gonna work because I'm like fucking pounding 20 milligrams of fucking Cialis. So I'm like, of course my dick's gonna work. Like, and so I think like when you go in and you're like worried about it, like for instance, I watched your goddamn fucking Deca video the other day, and I fucking couldn't keep my dick hard because I'm like, fuck, I just shoot some Deca. But for 3 months I took Deca and I never had a fucking issue. I watched your fucking video and then it's in my mind. Yeah. And for the first time in like 3 months, I fucking couldn't keep my dick hard. I was like, what the fuck, man?
My bad, dude.
No, I'm telling you, it's psychological, dude. I really think. I mean, not that Deca doesn't maybe have an effect, but like.
No, there's literally a thing called Deca Dick that's like named after it.
But I was good for like 3 months on it, and then all of a sudden I watched that video, and like the very next day I'm like, funny. Fuck, man.
The algorithm knows you're on Deca, dude.
That was funny. I hadn't taken it since the military. I actually just recently.
Does your doctor suggest adding it to your HRT kind of for like joint support and shit?
No, somebody sent it to me. So there was this.
Somebody? Like I would hope somebody who gets your address that sends you Deca.
It's funny. No, it was like a clinic. So basically, it's, I forget what it's called, but they basically do like the peptides. They do the HRT, all that shit. And so they sent me out a bunch of stuff. Like I just shot this MOT-C stuff, so I'll see what that does. And then I tried the Ipamorelin, whatever that Tessamorelin, whatever the fuck that was for the HGH. And then I tried the Melanotan 2, which
This is the first time you tried it?
Yeah, I hated it, dude. Bro, I looked like a fucking demon, dude. My whole fucking face like beat red. Like I gave it to a couple chicks and they liked it and like seemed like they wanted to fuck a lot on it.
It's a really interesting drug actually. I'm surprised you never heard of it. Like I guess when you're so involved with shit, it's not like you even go on the internet to look out this weird stuff, but like this stuff, like for me, I'm very pale. I don't tan easily. So for me, this shit, I was like, it was like revolutionary to learn you can manually manipulate your skin tone to a point you could literally make yourself black if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Not that you would necessarily. You like obviously have, you know, some sort of titration. You like know what you're doing. But like there's so many weird things it does. It like makes you get spontaneous erections. It actually increases fat loss a little bit. Like it's not bad for body composition. Keeps your appetite down, although to the degree that you could be nauseous sometimes, unfortunately.
That
and it just makes you tanned as fuck. Like for me, this was my back. If you type in Melanotan before and after, or just results, like I'm always like one of the first results. This was my back before and after.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it looks like I went in like a spray tan or something.
Yeah, but it's like a legit tan, though.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
like red.
Yeah, you become able to, you know, literally produce melanin that you otherwise wouldn't have. It's fucking nuts.
I remember I was like, there's this chick that...
Here's another one. Like dramatic, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And like obviously if you're a pasty fucker,
Fucking rib there. Jesus Christ.
if you're pasty, it's like a game changer potentially for your confidence.
It was funny, man. I had this chick over here, and it was like some chick that like comes over and she like lasers my back or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, oh, you know, let's fucking try this out. And dude, I literally, like I said, I looked like a fucking demon, dude. I look like Hellboy.
Oh
like
yeah,
my whole
you get the
face
flush for the first
red
30
as
minutes.
Fuck,
They
man.
need
I
to
was like,
warn you about that shit.
and she was like, you know, we probably would have fucking banged it, but I was like, I couldn't even look at myself.
it's like a niacin flush for
Yeah.
like the first 45 minutes though, and you're just sitting there and you can like feel like heat in your face from how much like blood is rushed there.
She didn't get it. Like the 3 chicks that I've given it to, none of them got it. It was
No,
just
really?
like I got it. My buddy.
Yeah, it's like
Bill.
individual dependence. Weird.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know. But that drug, if you know how to use it too, like some of the clinics, they prescribe really aggressive dosages that are like unnecessary. They make you get freckles and moles. And you get, what's fucked up is the most melanin dense areas of your body get disproportionately darker if you're not careful about it.
Like really dark.
So
moles.
like your ball sack, if you use this shit stupidly, you literally end up with like a black ball sack, and the rest of you use like normal color.
That's fucking funny.
Yeah, so you gotta be careful with that shit, and you gotta know the person who's telling you about it knows what's up.
I heard there's a spray version of the one I took was injectable, but I heard there's one that you can.
Yeah,
just
you
spray up
can,
your
but
nose.
for me, a sub-Q shot is like way fucking easier than a. I don't want to spray something up my nose. I don't know.
I'd rather jack a needle. I'm with you, bro.
No, yeah, sub.
I think most people are not like that.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, when I think of anything, dude, I'm like a sub-Q like belly fat like insulin pen. That's like nothing. So I don't know. If I had to snort something every day, I probably wouldn't adhere to it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fucking.
There's some like interesting nootropics you can probably get through them though, like C-Max, Solank. You literally shoot it like right. It's like localized to your brain almost.
They sent me that. Yeah.
Might be worth trying. Yeah.
You like that one?
Yeah, it's good for recovery from workouts, like from a mental capacity, not from like a body like muscle capacity. Like it really helps your brain kind of like stress resilience, but also like, I don't know, just like neuroplasticity, ability to kind of like mentally handle stress sort of, and just like more shit on your plate. I don't know, like usually I have massive brain fog after a workout, but this kind of stuff.
Dude, you need to do ice baths.
Yeah.
And it's, I know you don't want to do it and it sounds shitty and whatever, but I'm just telling you, 1 minute. That's all you got to do, and it will fucking remove your brain fog. It'll also make you more relaxed. So you'll basically have like the effects of like the good thing of Valium and the good thing of Adderall.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, dude, it's like, look at all the guys that are doing it. There's like a lot of like fucking legit guys that are doing it and swear by it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of them are doing it more than they like. I think like multiple 1 minute ice baths throughout the day is better than like the long duration. And also, if you only do a minute, it really doesn't shock your body like to the point where like you could get sick or it lowers your immune system or any of that stuff. But it does give you, man, I don't know, these cold shock proteins or whatever, but there's a lot more to it. I'm just telling you, just try it and just notice the cognitive function. It'll remove brain fog. I smoke weed fucking a lot. So like, I'll wake up sometimes eating weed brownies and shit the night before. I do that and I am fucking locked on.
What's your diet like though? Do you do like a any sort of like special like keto or anything, or are you just like normal like carbs, protein, fats, kind of like distributed evenly?
Yeah, I don't really do a lot of fat. So for me, I kind of believe in the diets of like, I believe in keto for a guy that isn't a performance athlete.
Yeah. Because for me, keto from a mental aspect sounds attractive. So that's what I'm thinking with the brain fog thing. But like carbs is like, you lose like 10 pounds of water like out of your muscle immediately if you fucking pull carbs.
For sure.
So,
And you're like, glycogen is just such a better source of energy for explosive fucking exercise.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you're a performance athlete and you're doing stuff like I do MMA, like I'm fucking doing weightlifting, like the things that I'm doing, it's just not conducive to be doing a fucking Atkins diet where you're drawing from fat. Like if you're just a normal guy going through life that, walks and does regular shit, I actually think it's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think you're probably lower, less likely to get diabetes. I mean, there's a lot of like negatives to the insulin spikes and stuff like that. But for me, I capitalized on the insulin spikes because that's a transport mechanism for glycogen and protein and whatever. And so I use those windows, and I'm like constantly feeding myself, and I feel like my muscles are fuller, I look better, and I perform better. So I try and do 25 to 30 grams of protein every meal, low glycemic index carbs, try and do the veggies. I do breakfast twice a day. And which is oatmeal, berries, and then like 6 eggs over easy, which I take out like the hard yolks and have a little bit of the runny, and then some air fried potatoes.
So if you do like a heavy weight training session, then you eat like a carb and protein dense meal, do you normally get brain fog? And then that's where you would jump into the cold bath thing to attenuate that, or how would you?
I've been doing that for so long, eating every 3 hours carbs, that I don't even know. You
don't even notice the difference?
I've done a 3-day fast, and I actually did feel like mentally, but I lost like 10 pounds of muscle. I was like, fuck that, I'll never do that again. But like mentally, I guess I was pretty clear. I don't know. I haven't really ever done kind of like Atkins, because for me it was always hard for me to put on size.
Yeah.
And it like staying lean was never really difficult. So I was not much of a dieter. I actually had to force myself to eat. But yeah, I eat a pretty, it's like chicken, rice, steak, rice, veggies. I'm pretty strict. I have chefs, about 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when I travel, I bring them with me. So,
oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So I eat pretty clean.
Awesome.
For me, it's like,
do you know what your macros are? Just out of curiosity.
So I do probably like 8 ounces of chicken, 1 or 2 cups of rice, and then veggies, and then I do a steak dinner, which is 6 to 8 ounces of steak, air fried potatoes, broccoli, and it's like pretty fucking clean, dude.
You don't find the weed makes you like over hungry?
It fucking does. It's tough.
Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, you remain pretty, like, for you to be like, I have bad genetics, like, okay, maybe to your perspective, but to the average person, you're like, your physique, especially the fact that you've entered your 40s and you still have a fucking visible six-pack like perpetually around the clock, year-round.
Yeah.
That sort of thing is like, you have to be adhering to a reasonably strict diet and like training pretty like decently hard and like, not overeating especially is like the main thing.
Dude,
so
I'm a fucking monster when it comes to like discipline. I don't think I've taken more than 4 days off in like 20 years. Like I don't think that I've like missed a meal. Like I'm like, dude, when I set out to do something, like I do it. You know what I mean? Like
so you don't do anything to like tone down the weed hunger. You just kind of just deal with it.
I'll have like Honey Nut Cheerios, which like isn't that bad. It's like, I think
if you portion it, it's not that bad at all.
Yeah, it's like 12 grams of sugar and 30 grams of like, for 30 grams of carbs, it's like 1/3 sugar, and like some of it's from honey, which isn't the worst source. The protein comes from oats, so it's like lower glycemic index. It's got low fat, so I combine that with like fat-free cottage cheese and pineapple, which is really high protein. So it's like, from a macro standpoint, it's not like a terrible meal, but it satisfies kind of like the sugar, the sweetness, or whatever.
Right.
But not with like a super high glycemic index sugar. It's not like I'm eating fucking Nerds ropes and shit.
Do you do like The Rock every Sunday? He just like goes ham.
No.
He has a cheat day every Sunday and he posts about it usually.
Yes,
like he'll have his feed, it's like 4 posts. It's like, all right, time to have like 72 fucking pancakes. Like this is what I do every week.
Yeah.
And he's just like, enjoy your cheat meals, my friends. And then he has this like big fucking binge, which is obviously like reflective of the fact that his diet model is so unsustainable that he feels like he has to do this.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't crave just binging and gorging yourself to the point of probably being in like a fucking coma by the time you get to nighttime, unless your diet was like not, like you can tell something about what he's doing is like a little bit too strict in from Monday to Saturday to where he feels like by Sunday he's like, I've earned destroying myself.
Well, and he also does it with high fat too, which like is kind of, because when the fucking the insulin spike model, right? So when you have that insulin spike and you have those high glycemic index carbs, you're transporting that fat like directly into your fucking body to store. So it's kind of like, for him, he's obviously fucking juicing and like, he's low body.
I worry for that guy. Like not like as a personal friend or something, but like I feel like he's on track for a jammer like real soon. Like he's like 270 shredded year round essentially at like almost 50. Like I don't know many tall bodybuilders who are that jacked who make it to like 60.
Yeah, it's unhealthy to to sustain that level of mass. Like they show like people that are like, you know, like giants, you know, or like basketball players.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not healthy to be that big. Like your body's kind of
like I think you're almost like blessed from the aspect that you're happy with just your HRT and like 200 pounds and like staying as lean as you are, etc. You don't feel the need to push it, because the guys like that who's like his persona too, even though he's like rich and successful and like super popular, he needs to stay like that to have the roles he does and to be the guy he is too.
You know, I've talked about this before. To me, I don't understand The Rock, because don't get me wrong, I respect what he's fucking done. The guy's a fucking beast. He's amazingly charismatic. He's like always camera ready. Like what he's done with his career. I mean, he's like literally like one of the most famous guys in the entire fucking world from like WWE, which is like a pretty impressive transition. He's like the highest paid actor in the world. I don't think he's the best actor, but like he's still fucking the highest paid. So like hats off to him. The thing I don't like about The Rock is I don't feel like he gets to be authentic. Like I don't like if I had. Here's the thing. Like what's the point of having fuck you money if you never say fuck you? You know, and like I don't feel like he says fuck you. Like I do what the fuck I want. I want to fuck 10 chicks. I go fuck 10 chicks. I want to go to the islands. I want to do fucking, you know, a bunch of fucking weed. I want to do quaaludes. I want to fucking party my ass off. I do it. You know, if I want to take a fucking month off and go to Thailand and go free diving, I fucking do it. I do what the fuck I want. He does not. Like unless like just playing this character forever is what he wants, but I don't think that's what he wants.
Yeah,
like,
you can tell when he goes on camera, he's like putting it on like aggressively to the point that you don't even trust that it's him.
Yes,
like,
that's my point. It's like,
you are a huge fanboy, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, The Rock. You know, he's just always super upbeat and like always on it. But like, you know, when he's in the gym, he just wants to fucking train, and then he gets on camera, he's like, you know, he's like putting it in this, like his character on that he's in this.
I just would not want to be constantly on like that. You know, I want to have privacy. I want to be myself. I want people to fucking like, I want to say what the fuck's on my mind. Like, I wouldn't want to endorse Biden because my fucking crew told me to endorse Biden. I would never go on camera and fucking tell everybody, hey, it was the worst thing that's ever happened to me and my family. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, that's the worst thing that's the hardest thing you've ever been through is like, fuck off. Like, if that is the case, like, you're a weak motherfucker. If the hardest thing you've ever dealt with in your entire life is beating the fucking cold, like, fuck off. Right? Like, I've been through some fucking shit, you know, and I'm sure there's people that have been through fucking worse shit than me. Like, if you're telling me the worst thing that's ever happened to you is you were sick for a week, like, come on, dude. Like, don't fucking feed me that bullshit. Like, just be real. You know, like, and so to me, that would be the one thing that I would say is I just don't feel like, I feel like he's too rich to be fucking constantly playing a character. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there's definitely a disparity between, I feel like self-made, like, I don't know, some of the social media entrepreneurs are like a bit, I don't know, controlled still, but like guys like you who are like very self-made, there's a definite disparity between individuals who are still like, even though he's like the head of fucking everything, you can tell there's like a controlled element.
Yeah, you're not hearing what he wants to say. You're hearing what his team's put together. And to me, it's like, I don't know, man, like I think that's why Cardi B's done so well. Love her, hate her, whatever, you know. She's pretty authentic.
Yeah.
You know, she kind of like says what the fuck's on her mind, you know. And so I do like, as much as I like disagree with a lot of this shit, like I respect the fact that she kind of like owns her shit.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's why people like, you know, that Steve will do it guy, you know, guys like that kind of just like, you know, they're not politically correct. They're fucking, they say what the fuck they want, you know? And I think in a world of fucking robots and puppets and everything else, I think that's probably going to be the one thing that like stands out the most. That's actually one of the things that irritated, of all the shit that's been said about me, God knows there's been enough fucking negative shit, right? Like, I think the thing that irritated me the most was when people said that I wasn't authentic, because I've like prided myself. Like, I didn't post girls I wasn't fucking, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't post shit that wasn't mine. Like, you know, like I rented my houses. I've never fucking said I didn't, you know what I mean? I paid $5 million for the option to buy the house. And like, that was kind of the fucking plan. Right. So like, we technically had the fucking rights to the house, but like hit, and then, you know, you can't fucking use the house. What are you supposed to do? Right. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I think that's, like I said, that's probably been the thing that irritated me the most, just because I like prided myself on the authenticity of it, you know?
Yeah. And there's like a huge disparity too between the ways people generate money and how genuine they are. Like, for example, when you're trying to like generate wealth through like an actual production of a product that provides value in some capacity versus individuals who just like some people just ask for like I put a donation link in the fucking video, and they're like, oh yeah, just like toss me money, or buy my stupid NFT that I know is gonna be like shitty.
I've turned down a lot of money, you know, to promote stuff that I didn't believe in. So I've like stayed true to that. Like I've never told people something I didn't believe. And I've always been like upfront about my fucking using juice and whatever. Like I've never like shied from that. And I know that like it would probably be better for me to say that I'm natural, because like looking at me, nobody would think that I'm fucking juicing, right? Like I'm not any physical specimen. Like I'm in good shape, but like
you're comparing yourself to fucking bodybuilders though. So
I'm just saying, I'm comparing myself to fucking guys running around saying they're fucking natural, like fucking Mike O'Hearn, right? Yeah. So like I'm just saying, like the general population probably thinks that fucking guy is like natural, right? So like by standards, right? I mean, I don't know. I think there's like probably a decent amount of people that probably don't even know that Arnold juice. I don't know, man. Like I think perception is a bit skewed. Like I don't think people have any idea how many people are juicing. Like it's crazy. Like everybody's on steroids. Like I hate to break it to you motherfuckers. Everybody's on steroids. All your favorite athletes, they're all fucking doing shit. Like bottom line.
Every actor that had a dramatic before and after for a role.
Dude.
And then the stuff they'll say in interviews is baffling about, oh, it was just,
had a strict diet. We did some fucking hard cardio. It's like, okay, dude,
I just trained like twice a day. I hired a celebrity trainer, this and that. It's like, no, bro. You like took your fucking test levels to 5 times higher than they are right now. Yeah. And that's the main reason, you know?
And that's fine, like it's okay.
Just
like
it's
like
transparent about it.
Yeah, like why is everybody so fucking okay with like cocaine and fucking ecstasy use? That doesn't do anything for you. It's like that always fucking blew me away, was like when fitness guys would like do drugs and fucking drink alcohol and all this shit, but then they wouldn't shoot fucking gear. It's like just your whole fucking life is built around this. Like that just, like some guy hit me up actually the other day to train with him, and I was like, oh, like what do you run? And he's like, oh, I'm Natty. I'm like, well, we have nothing in common. I'm not training with you. Like, sorry. Like it's fine, but like that just shows me like a lack of dedication to the sport. So I just have a different view of it.
No, that sounds ridiculous to some people, but like if you actually understand what goes into it, it actually makes logical sense.
Well, because if you do it responsibly, which is what I advocate, I don't advocate fucking doing fucking Anadrol and fucking and running fucking shitloads of Tren and whatever. I mean, if you want to do it, fucking whatever. I don't advocate it just because I don't think it's healthy, but I think there's a healthy way to do it responsibly with a fucking doctor, monitoring your levels. And I think there's a lot of guys that are like in the fucking low level, low range that like should be on HRT, that like, and I've gotten people on HRT, like fucking uncles of mine and stuff. It's like literally changed their life and their marriage and whatever.
Yeah. So. I think a lot of them think too, it's just like, does my dick work versus not? And it comes down to like so many more things than that though too. Like even your ability to tolerate stress, like crank out a fucking book, like do any of these things. Like a lot of it is reliant upon your hormones. Like I've even seen chicks, like when they take birth control, some of them get fucked up from the test suppression.
Yeah, birth control is a big deal. Like that really like whacks their hormones.
Yeah, so like anytime I'm with a chick now, I ask her what she's on, because I've had situations where girls were on a certain. It's literally like a lot of people don't realize, but the birth control thing, if you actually look at what the drug is comprised of, it's a bunch of different 19 Nor derivatives that are like literally like you're taking oral Deca essentially.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like castrating them, because Deca is like very suppressive at like minuscule dosages, and that's why it works so well as a castration pill. You take the Deca, the nandrolone molecule, you manipulate it a bit so it's orally bioavailable, and you give it to a chick at a microdose, and you just castrate her. So it's technically every chick out there is actually on steroids right now. They just don't know it. Yeah. So, but
I mean, you see it. Like their tits will grow. Like they'll break out. Like there'll be like significant effects if they take the wrong birth control or something that doesn't agree with them.
Exactly. But it's like their test levels will get crushed by like 60% even sometimes. Like actually often, because that's literally what it's designed to do. And then you'll wonder why. Like I've had some relationships in the past get fucked up by the chick having like a shitty sex drive. And then I'll literally read their blood work and be like, oh, like your birth control is fucking you over. And then switch it to like a copper IUD, or like even the progestin-based IUD is better than the pill. But like that kind of stuff is like significant, and it can have a huge impact on relationship quality too. Like if the chick's sex drive isn't like where yours is, fucking like that could be a deal breaker for sure.
That's interesting. So how about like in performance sports? Like does that huge? Do they pop? Do they get benefit? Like how does
There's
that
like
work?
A threshold amount where they make sure they don't cross, and that's why I think there was this situation with this chick who ate a burrito she tested positive for nandrolone. Yeah. And she was blaming it on a burrito because like uncastrated boars have like a little bit of nandrolone in them normally. And actually chicks naturally produce a little bit of nandrolone too, just from the conversion process to estrogen. It's like an endogenous bioidentical hormone, just at minuscule quantities. But like there are threshold values, and they can tell the difference between the oral birth control and the actual like parent compound nandrolone. Like
Oh,
for like
interesting.
test isn't the same as like D-bol, even though D-bol comes from test.
Yeah.
They can tell the difference, right? But like at the end of the day, besides detection and stuff, like it has a huge impact on their mental state as far as like mood stability, their ability to tolerate stress. Sex drive is fucking hugely impacted by it to a point that I literally, it's like one of the fucking first things I ask them now at this point. Performance in the gym and body composition. Like they'll lose muscle and like gain fat, and it's like harder for them to stay in shape if they're on like the wrong thing. So like, yeah, a lot of that stuff is like from a guy aspect, we think about HRT, but like oftentimes I think even guys who know the HRT shit, they overlook entirely what their girl is doing. And then it can like fuck up their life hugely if their girl's not dialed in too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, that's what I tell everybody is like, just get blood work. Like you don't have to do anything. You don't have to act on it, but just like having a baseline, whether you're a guy or a girl, of like knowing where you are before you start fucking with it with hormones is very valuable, you know, like, because, you know, let's say you don't decide to do anything, like at least you can see like, okay, we have a decline, we're plateauing, you know, like whatever. It's just valuable information.
Oh yeah, like the most data you can compile, I feel like the better. Because like even with the sleep thing, like what if one day you start wearing like one of those devices and it just shows your sleep's like fucking wrecked? Like you would like to know at what point it like got to wrecked. Like what are you doing? You know?
Yep.
Like is it some drug I'm taking? Is it the fucking some food I have like a weird like allergy to or something? Like you never know.
No, for sure. I mean, my watch, like, yeah, it'll track like how often I wake up during the night, like the cycles of REM, the deep sleep, the whole thing. So yeah, it's pretty valuable.
Yeah, well, I think I have taken up enough of Dan's time today, and I appreciate you for going so long here. Like, I don't even know what this is. Might be like a fucking 2 to 3 hour podcast or something.
Yeah, we did I think over 2 hours.
Oh, killer. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and thank you for literally letting me come into your home and like set all this shit up. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
And everyone go check out the book. A lot of the stuff we talked about today is kind of like extrapolated from the book. And it's a very, very interesting read if you're interested in male self-improvement in general and just like the origins of Dan's, you know, story. Because again, like a lot of this shit, people don't find him relatable because he's such like this hyper pinnacle success story. But like the beginnings and like the infrastructure that built his character, where he became able to become like socially apt and like talk to people in, you know, a way that, you know, develops like high quality relationships, how he, you know, developed talking to women, all that kind of stuff is kind of outlined in the book, and it's like highly interesting, and it makes it a lot easier, I feel like, to resonate with what you say as opposed to being like, oh, you know, how the fuck can I listen to this guy when he just talks about like private jet, this, that, like 70 hot girls, etc.
That's the thing, man. I you know, I said the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, so I think a lot of like the younger stuff is very relatable, you know, because I did not have, you know, some fucking great childhood or whatever, so I think a lot of my struggles are probably, you know, similar to other dudes, you know.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and definitely check out the book. You know, I bought it myself when I was doing the videos, kind of like outlining the hormone use and whatnot. If you guys haven't seen those videos, that's actually how Dan came across me, I think, right? You saw my video on, so I took like an excerpt from his steroid usage in, you know, trying to become a SEAL and whatnot, and, you know, the hormone use and that kind of endeavor. And the rest of it's highly interesting from an overall self-improvement aspect and just like a general, just a great fucking book in general. So I highly recommend it. I'll put up a link in the video description as well as a pinned comment. Definitely check it out. And thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, that was fucking good, man. Yeah. Thanks for going so long.
You don't do any podcasts either. You know, it's funny, man. Like, a lot of my podcasts are so fucking different. Like, the Nelk Boys was just all about girls, and then when I did Logan Paul's, that was, you know, we just dove so much deeper because he had read the book, and so we were able to have a lot more of an interesting conversation, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, have you thought about doing a podcast?
To be honest, like basically to date,